Chicago.
This program was recorded on Monday, October the 23rd in the year of our Lord, 2017. 2017 is better. The opinions expressed by the participants in the following program do not necessarily represent that of this station or its management.
Or anybody else.
From the John DeVita Recording Studio, located in an undisclosed and clandestine location on the great northwest side of our fair city of Chicago, we once again are pleased to be presenting yet another edition of our monthly roundtable panel discussion show, Meet the Chicago Historians. Now here's the guy who started it all, John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Rich, from the John DeVita Broadcast Center. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Meet the Chicago Historians on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, October the 23rd, year 2017. Today, the panel will be talking about Haunted Chicago, a special Halloween show. So sit back and enjoy Meet the Chicago Historians. And now to start today's show, here is our announcer, Mr. Richard Lang.
Right now, bad news. We don't have our usual panel moderator at hand, Jack Red Ryan. So I'll just announce, here's our panel moderator. Bill?
Bill?
Or John, I'm sorry, another John. My mistake.
John, you're older than me, so go ahead.
Sorry, John.
That's all right. Hi, this is John Escacholco, and I'll be substituting for Jack Red Ryan, our regular host and moderator. And we always like to point out that red does not reflect his political point of view. It only reflects the color of his hair. So Jack Red Ryan, the pride of the Chicago Police Department, is he's recovering. He had to underwent some surgery, and we hope he'll be back for our big November program, our Thanksgiving edition. But this is our Halloween edition of Meet the Chicago Historians. So let's meet our Chicago historians. And I'll start with the gentleman to my left, our announcer, who has, as I always love to say, has one of the great voices of radio. No, I don't say that he's got a great face for radio. I said he's got one of the great voices for radio.
Thank you, John. No, I'm Rich Lang, your announcer. I'm a student of Ken Little's, who we keep missing every month. I've taught some modern European and American history, and I'm becoming more and more in my advanced age a devotee of Chicago history, neighborhood history.
Very good. Now I'll look off to across the table from me is a man who actually admits, and he's part of a very select group, ladies and gentlemen. He is willing to admit to being a friend of our moderator, Jack Red Ryan. So let's hear from Tom.
Tom McKenna, and again, lifelong friend of our regular moderator, John Ryan. And as John said, I'm one of the few people that actually admit that. Retired from Chicago Police Department after 34 years. I know at John's wedding, I was best man at his wedding, and I stood up and as my speech, I said, John, you and I have done almost everything together throughout our entire lives. We were in Cub Scouts together, Boy Scouts, grammar school, high school, college. We coached teams together. We went in the police department together. We worked in some of the same units. It seems like everything that you've done, I've done, and everything that I've done, you've done. But if you think I'm getting married just because you're getting married, you're crazy. But a few years later, I did succumb, and I am now happily married for 25 years. And to my left,
Name's Al Opitz. I been vacant for about last year or so, recovering from various things, and ended up with kidney failure. So that's always a joy. I'm a graduate of Lane Tech. Lane Tech has just been rebuilt. I guess I haven't had a chance to tour it, but it's supposed to be quite an operation there. And then he got the rebuilt field next door, so it's quite an elaborate operation there right now. But anyways, beyond that, I'll go to my left. Go with Mr. Kugelman.
Bill Kugelman. And you know what? I'd like to start out by dedicating this program today to our missing member, been missing here for at our program for quite some time, Ken Little.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
Sure.
dedicate this to
Yes.
him. We have
Amen.
dedicated the second floor at the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago in Ken's honor, 5218 Southwestern. And by the way, we will be open this Saturday from 10 to 2. That's the 28th. But that second floor is going to be the Ken Little Library at the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago. And I saw Ken here about a week or two ago, and he's not the old Ken that we knew. He's not doing too good, and you know, we wish him well. Our prayers, our thoughts are with him. So if you would, guys, let's dedicate this program to Kenny.
Great.
Absolutely,
Great.
absolutely.
Great idea.
And sorry to hear that he's not doing as well as we might have hoped. He's been an inspiration, I think, to many of the people at this table. He's so supremely knowledgeable about the history of the city of Chicago, and a great guy as well.
Premier
so
guy,
we wish
yeah.
him. We certainly wish him well.
Right.
And if you want to know where any street in Chicago is, you could ask him.
Absolutely.
He knows where
That's
it
for
was.
sure.
And he knows
For
every,
sure.
just about every building on that street too.
He knows
he is
every-
unbelievable.
He knows every street. He knows every firebox that on the corner. He knows the number of that firebox, and he can tell you all kinds about different things, different buildings that have burned down. And I've known Ken. Oh my God, I've known Ken for many, many, many years, and he's been a great guy. He's been a great help to me with the when I was president of the 511 Club, and he's the greatest human being as far as I'm concerned on this earth. Come to the fire service.
Absolutely.
So right,
Absolutely.
so right, John, so right.
You could perhaps mention that he knows what trucks and whatever else is in every firehouse.
Well, he should. I mean, he's been on. I went on the job just about the same time as Ken in 1955, and he's just taught so many people. We miss him. The hell with the computers. He is a two-legged computer, as far as I'm concerned. Just did a great job.
Absolutely, and we want to welcome Al Obitz back too.
Yeah.
We
Thank
welcome
you.
Al. Al has, as
Welcome
he
back, Al.
indicated, he's been AW not absent without leave. I think he had leave, but he's been absent for some
About a year.
months, as he indicated, and it's
A
good to
year,
see you
actually.
back. And I see you're wearing your Alaska baseball cap.
That's the promised land.
So it's good to have Al Obitz back.
Good to have Tom McKenna here
Yes,
too.
yes.
We
Glad
missed
to
him
be.
He's
for
missed a
while.
few
Glad to be
episodes.
back. I had a short bout with pneumonia,
Ooh,
but I'm fully recovered now. Knock on wood.
You can sure tell our ages, can't you?
Yeah, that's right. Hey,
Was-
there's only one alternative.
Were there any other fights on the card when you had that bout with pneumonia, or were you the feature? Were you the featured
Yeah,
event? Eddie?
I was a winner and by unanimous decision.
Great. Congratulations. So it's good to have
Isn't
Tom and Al back with
Isn't
us.
it
Thank
time to stop calling Jack Ryan red?
Yeah,
He hasn't
there's
been red for a long time.
a little pink.
Come
maybe,
on.
but
It looks a
that's
little
about it.
red.
Anyway, I'm Bill Kugelman. I spent 46 years on the fire department, and now very active with the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago, like I said. And we have a program here, Historians, and that's what we're doing with the Fire Museum. It's the history of the Chicago Fire Department in this city. We never had a museum. Other small departments, suburban departments, had it. It'll be 20 years now that we have been in existence. We celebrate burning down the city in October now, the first part of October, but we never had a museum.
you were
so
starting a fire
now we
there?
can do that. And we also have a little announcement that is a little timely, I guess. On December 1st of 2018, not this December 1st, the next December 1st will be the 60th anniversary of the Our Lady of the Angels fire.
Wow.
I have a guy coming to the Fire Academy on the 1st of December to give a program. He's, in fact, he has adopted one of the kids that, I don't know what other name you would use, but adopted, that died in that fire, little girl Sansonetti. But he will give a program at the Fire Academy, and we'll get it out in the papers and that. And then the next day, at Holy Family Church on Roosevelt Road, we will have the 60th anniversary Mass with the Our Lady of the Angels people there. So
Does that parish still exist? Is there, or has the parish?
yeah.
There is still an Our
Oh.
Lady of the Angels.
the Our Lady of the Angels? Yes, there is, but this
They're not
I
having
think
it.
he's a Franciscan, opened it up, and it's not like it was before. But it's
But there is still the
it's
parish.
still there.
exists,
Yeah, very different than it was before. But yeah, we're going to have that. It's a little early to be talking about it, but you know, we didn't want to have the 59th anniversary. We wanted to let everybody know about it, and
Sure.
especially the survivors that are still around.
Well, anyone who was alive at that time, particularly baby boomers, I mean, you remember that was the great story of that year and of maybe the decade. It was a huge.
Not-
I mean, it was
not only
for
of this-
Chicago. It was almost like 9/11. It was.
Yeah.
It was something that was just so tragic, and just consumed the news for days and days.
Right.
Continuous television
Yeah.
coverage.
And it's not just Chicago or Illinois or the United States. It was worldwide that
Right.
changed many laws and statutes around the country. Oh, that's yeah. We're gonna do that for those people. They're always in our mind. A lot of us, and I was very glad I wasn't there. I was in France. I had been drafted, and I was over there. My dad called me and told me about it. My company was there, so I would have been there on that shift. But you talk to the guys. It's you love to go to every fire, but not something like that. Just
You know,
don't
Bill, you're talking about that. I was in Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas, the day that happened. I was in the NCO club having something to eat, and it was breaking news. They had televisions up on the wall, and breaking news, and then they had it. They were showing live shots of what was going on.
Sure.
So
Sure.
yeah, I know. That
We had
was-
our open house. It was September, and the one of the fire alarm operators brought a lady and her daughter in and introduced them to me, and her father was the driver of the snorkel at the fire, and he never talked about it. Most of those, you don't talk about those things, but we got some things. She brought us some things, and we're gonna have her in again, and her name was Welsh, and he was driving Snorkel 1. That's the first time it was ever used at a fire like that.
There's two people that majority of us sitting here in this studio know that were involved with that Our Lady of the Angels fires. One of them was Jeanette Frontier.
Mm-hmm.
She was involved in it, and the other guy was Bill Giaconetti. And he was a police officer, and he was involved in that.
He was off duty.
Yeah, Bill Giaconetti
Yeah.
and Jeanette Frontier. They were both involved.
How was she involved, John?
I think, John, if my memory recalls, I think she had a candy store or a store across the street
Oh, wow.
from the school or
Oh.
from there.
And they used the phone to call in the fire. Yeah, there's there's a couple of people retired now from the police department. One was Matt Plavanich. He was at the last OLA program, and then Beth Atkins. And I can't think of Beth's last, her maiden name, but she was in, I believe she was in like 4th grade, and ended up a sergeant in the police.
How many died
good gal.
at the fire?
96.
96.
Yeah.
96.
Yeah. Oh,
And to this day, the cause of the fire is still uncertain, although it was likely arson.
yes, yes.
And there's one particular fellow that is most likely a suspect, but no definitive proof.
No, he went to California. The people that I was very involved with, the Friends of OLA, and these people were survivors, of course. The 2 gals went out there to California, and they got a hold of the police chief and the fire chief and told them, "Hey, this guy's living in your area, in your district here."
How were they aware of
And
this?
unofficially,
Okay.
unofficially,
Unofficial,
they
right.
they knew who it was.
Right.
Was he mentally
And,
unhinged, or did he
No,
have,
no,
did he
it
have some
didn't
sort
seem
of,
to be.
Did he have some sort of motive? Or?
Didn't seem to be. To get a lot of information, if you go on olafire.com, and we have a website, olafire.com. We just put in fact, I just put a couple more pictures on there too. A branch, I guess you call it, called Heroes, and they're the fire, the police, the EMS, the doctors at the hospital, the nurses, and that type of thing. This guy just, Eric, does it on his own. He has no familiar representation. He wasn't from around here. He does this in Oregon. And he just was in school at that time and out there, and he just felt that he should do it. Eric Morgan, and no charge or anything else, keeps it up. Great guy to do something like this. The statue that was in the backyard, I guess you'd call it, of OLA, the statue of Our Blessed Mother, was put on. You all right, John?
No, something.
Okay. The statue that was in the back of Our Blessed Mother was put on a black granite pedestal with all the names of the ones that died in gold lettering, and I believe wasn't Cardinal George. It was the guy just before him. Dedicated that.
Bernadine?
And yeah, I think
Bernadine?
it was Bernadine.
There were one or more nuns who died in the
Oh
fire.
yeah, there
weren't
was
Yeah.
what was there, 4,
4 nuns.
and BVMs. And when they called me on this, Father Agnabene who was at the fire, saved some people, was still living, and I got to know him, and he said, "Bill, please move that statue from OLA, from the school, the new school. It was a new one in that." And I said, "Well, why would?" He says, "You'll see what I'm talking about when you take a look at it." I had a police escort going over there, and I could see why. They had urinated on it. They had marked it all up. It was terrible. And as luck had it, when I moved that out of there, at Holy Family, they had a fire there, and they had people from Rome, from Italy, restorers, and I think I gave them $20. I says, "Here, clean this up, will you guys? I'm going to put it over here." We moved it there, and they cleaned it up, so, and it's still there, right where I moved it. We have a phone call.
I have to break in.
John is saying.
We have a phone call, and so John, would you give us our caller? Hello, caller.
Hi, this is my mystery caller.
Do you have any identification for us?
What kind? My Walmart card or something?
Yeah, something that you could you could read the
Yeah.
serial number
That's
over the
Jack
phone.
Ryan for
We could
Little
verify
Girl.
it.
Driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance, please.
Yeah.
Social Security, of course.
Does that ring a bell?
At least 3 photo IDs that you can fax to us.
How about a DD 214?
Your income
Okay.
tax for the
Or
last
were you
4
in
years.
Canada?
Stay with us, caller.
Hey, how's everything, guys?
All right, John.
Good. How are you? How you
I
feeling?
wish I was with you.
How's the weather out there, Jack?
Well, we're closer to the equator than you are right now, so must be warmer.
Well, we're sorry you're not here. We got Al Obitz and your friend Tom McKenna, who actually again told us that he admits to being a close personal friend of yours.
That's right. It's
Yeah,
it's hard to get around. We have been so closely associated through the years. It's difficult to get away from it.
You got
Much
a
as
home
he's
back,
tried to
huh?
deny it through the
Al, are you there?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Doing better.
Yeah,
A little damp out there, but other than that,
yeah. And Rich
Um,
and Tom.
good to hear from you again, Jack. Hang in there.
Oh,
I want to see you next month.
I sure hope so.
Jack, we were wondering, we had a little pool going here. What are you going to dress up for at Halloween?
Let's see. I was going to be the Berlin Wall, but they tore that down.
so how much weight have you lost so far in the hospital? I lost 50 pounds.
No, nothing like that. But it was I didn't have any. I didn't have any appetite, believe it or not. I couldn't even stand the odor of your aroma of food for a while there. So that's really weird.
Has that changed?
I'm sorry, what?
Has that changed now?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You've gotten your appetite back again.
No, seriously. They come to me in one of these dishes, and I have to take it away. I wind up having a bowl of cereal, Cheerios or Rice Krispies or oatmeal for their meal. So anyway, for a while.
Al Obitz is sitting in your chair, Jack.
Yes.
Did he get authorization from you for that? Because we were questioning it when he came in, but he said you had given him a permit slip for that.
Who's sitting there?
Al Obitz.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sitting here. I figure as long as you're not going to show up, I'll go steal your
Yeah.
place.
yeah. You're warming it. You're a bench warmer.
Looking forward to the world. Who are you going to be rooting for in the World Series?
Ooh.
Let's see. Well, I reckon Houston.
The Cubs are gone, so you can't do that.
I know that. Our apologies to any Cub fans out there. So.
I saw my favorite T-shirt after the Cubs got destroyed by the Dodgers. It was a Cub blue with a Cub logo on it, and underneath the Cub logo it says wait until last year.
What was it?
That's good.
Wait until last year.
That's good.
That's a
was-
good line.
That was clever.
They come up with some good stuff, Anyway.
So, can we look forward to seeing you at our November show?
Yeah, if I get some transportation out there, probably. Maybe I can start heading that way now.
We'll have the Meet the Chicago Historians limo pick you up.
Either that,
It was
call,
being serviced this month. That's why we weren't able to do it this
call
month.
the fire department and beg them.
That should do it.
Well, I'm out by my daughter's house in Burr Ridge, and the town zoo kind of closed down because the snail died. So anyway, oh well, that was a Johnny Carson joke a while ago. So anyway, anything else new, you guys?
No,
Not much.
No, we were just talking
just-
about the Our Lady of the Angels fire, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
okay.
As a lead into Haunted Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they have to talk about you in Holland, Chicago.
Are there any haunts of Chicago that you'd like to talk to us about before you end your
Oh,
call?
I know Our Lady of the Angel. Tom and I were in 7th grade at the time.
Yeah, right,
December 1st, 58.
right.
Is that right? Yeah. I don't know what happened.
They're going to have a special ceremony next year.
Our school didn't even have a telephone in it at the time. They have to go across the rectory or something to use the phone if they were making a business call. But they put a phone in after that and some sprinkler system. I remember that. So.
Huh.
Anyway. Well, guys, have a good one, okay?
Good to hear from you, Jack. Have a great Halloween, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.
Take care.
Best wishes, Jack.
Didn't
See
have
you
a
next
call-
month.
Didn't have a call box in front of the school either.
Okay, that was Jack Red Ryan, our regular host and moderator, and we do wish him continued recovery. I think he's pretty well recovered, but he lives a good distance from our undisclosed location and wasn't able to make it over this month. We hope to see him at our November program. We've been talking a little bit about the Our Lady of the Angels Fire. Our topic for today is Haunted Chicago, and we'll be spending some time on that. We also customarily talk a little bit about the news of the day and what's in recent events. I should point out that for our regular listeners, we missed our September edition of the show with so many of our regulars on other assignments. We canceled the program in September. And for those of you who were with us in August, Bill Kugelman and I held down the fort, and we covered the waterfront of events. So that's why we're glad to see our panelists back again. We've been a little bit short of our component of Chicago historians, and it would be great if Ken Little could be back with us again.
Boy,
We'd sure like to see him
when
again.
we have two vacant seats here.
Yeah, if anybody thinks they're a historian about Chicago history, give the station a call and we can invite you to come down here.
and join our select
Oh,
group.
we have three. Oh, yeah. Kate isn't here.
No.
Come to think of it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
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 Why is
Oh, Kate's out in the car.
making notes for next month's
Yes.
episode probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's always a chance for somebody who wants to make an impression on the radio to, come down here and show your knowledge.
I just saw an old episode of one of the most famous dogs in the history of early television. They've been showing what they call Lost TV on a station called Decades, and they had an episode of Topper
Oh, yeah.
from 1953, and you may remember Neil.
Yeah, right.
Neil, the Saint Bernard, the inebriated Saint Bernard.
The alcoholic dog.
And I can remember, I remember that show vividly as a kid. That Topper was a very popular show in the early 50s. And of course the premise was that George and Marion Kirby had died in an avalanche skiing, and along with them the Saint Bernard that had come to rescue them. And he had consumed all the brandy that he was supposed to bring to them. The old idea of St. Bernards carrying the little keg of brandy around their neck. And then they haunted their former house, which had been bought by Leo G. Carroll, Cosmo Topper. So that brings you up to speed about the TV show Topper. But Neil was one of the most famous television dogs of the 1950s.
Well, that wouldn't pass the ASPC ratings with the getting a dog drunk.
I'm sure it wouldn't.
I wouldn't pass the pause one either, but
Yeah,
that's
right.
You see you see things on television now, and you think things that were just commonplace in the 50s and 60s that would be considered, to use the overworked phrase, politically incorrect
yeah.
today.
Well,
But anyway, we're coming up on the end of our first half-hour segment.
first half
so-
hour, 40 minutes.
This is John Kachonko with you, and we're at Meet the Chicago Historians, and we will be right back.
Friends, are you looking for a place to have some printing done? Well, I have the right place for you to go, and that is the printing store in Oak Park, Illinois. Call or see Phil Berry at 621 Madison Street in Oak Park, Illinois, or call 708 888-383-3638. Phil will sit down with you and help you plan whatever you need printed. Now, his products are brochures, booklets, business cards, catalogs, envelopes, letterheads, flyers, invitations, newsletters, notepads, menus, mailers, manuals, labels, posters, postcards, price lists, NCR forms, sale sheets, table tents, pocket folders, and presentation forms. And his services include 1-to-4 color offset printing, digital copying, high-speed copying, graphic designs, typesetting, laminating, foil stamping, die cutting, and imprinting. And he also has a complete bindery service, which includes booklets, cutting, scoring, folding, numbering, padding, and drilling. So once again, for all your printing needs, see or call Phil Berry at the printing store at 621 Madison Street in Oak Park, Illinois, or call 708-383-3638. And once again, they are located at Madison Street and Clarence Avenue, just east of Oak Park Avenue. And it's at 621 Madison Street in Oak Park, or call 708-383-3638 and ask to speak to.
Now, back to our special Halloween editions of Meet the Chicago Historians. John?
Yeah. Welcome to our Halloween edition of Meet the Chicago Historians. We'll be talking a little bit later in our show about Halloween. I'd like to talk a little bit about the origins of our celebration of Halloween, and then we're going to talk about the haunted history of the city of Chicago. I've got my colleague, our announcer, Rich Lang, has a book here called The Ghosts of Chicago.
Ooh-ah.
And we were talking about the fact that Chicago is noted for ghosts. It has ghost voters. It has ghost payrollers. So there are many, many ghosts that have played a prominent role in the civic history of the city of Chicago. But it's customary that we talk a little bit at the outset of our show about current events. And we're at kind of the high tide of sporting news right now. We're all set for the World Series that sadly will not include our Chicago Cubbies this year. They were eliminated from their pursuit of the National League pennant, and they were defeated by the Brooklyn. The Brooklyn. I guess old habits die hard.
Yes.
The Brooklyn. I still think of them as the Brooklyn Dodgers.
So do I, yeah.
I think baseball began going downhill when the Dodgers moved out of Brooklyn.
Here, here.
They were that was such a part of America. The movies, the Brooklyn Dodgers, Leo Durocher. But in any event, they lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers. So they will not be in this series. The series will be the Houston Astros, which was a National League team. So in effect, you have two National League teams fighting for the World Series this year, if you want to look at it that way. And they began as the Houston Colt 45s.
Wow.
Which that at the very beginning, the first when they expanded, when the National League expanded, they were the Houston Colt 45s. I think they came in the same year as the New York Mets. I think they were the two teams that were added. And in any event, they were a National League team. They changed their name to the Astros because of the space headquarters being placed out in Houston. And that was, of course, in the 1960s with the space exploration at its greatest interest by the public. They changed the name. And Colt 45 might have been an early version of political correctness, too.
Right.
They didn't want to be named after six guns.
I thought that there was a beer named after him, or the beer named for the.
Colt 45s, yeah.
That's right.
That was
But
a
also in the news, if you've been following the news, of course, the NFL, which stands for the National Football League, I think some of the owners and some of the executives may have forgotten that they are in charge of the National Football League, or maybe they're not sure which nation the National Football League represents. They ought to look at that logo of theirs, which is red, white, and blue, and has white stars on a blue field, and maybe it might remind them of what the National Football League is supposed to represent. But as you know, some of the stalwart football players have chosen not to stand for the national anthem, for the Star-Spangled Banner. They've taken a knee. I hate that phrase, taken a knee. That seems to be the in way of describing it.
Well, a lot of athletes think they're above anybody else,
Yeah, I suppose so.
and
Our
consequently,
pay rise.
But I have some thoughts on it, but I'm going to turn the microphone over to the gentleman who suggested this as our opening topic. So let's hear what Tom Mahorek thinks about this issue.
McKenna,
I'm sorry, Tom.
that's all right.
Forgive me.
Yeah, the original taking a knee, as if you will, Colin Kaepernick. Supposedly, this was in protest of police brutality, police racial discrimination. Then it kind of spread to anti-American. One of the lead proponents of the protest is a Seattle football player by the name of Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett was involved in an incident in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he wrote and spoke. He wrote a letter. He spoke about how he was leaving a nightclub, and I'm very familiar. I have a place in Las Vegas, and I'm very familiar with this location. The casino where this nightclub is, the nightclub is called Dre's, and the casino, now it's called the Cromwell. It was called the Barbary Coast. You know, when they changed the name to the Cromwell, obviously they weren't very familiar with Irish history of what Cromwell did to the Irish. But anyway,
And what he did to one of the
Yeah.
great dictators, I
Right.
mean, he is loathed
Exactly.
and despised, I think, across the board in the
but
British.
but
Isles.
but obviously when it was brought up, the people that named it had no idea what anybody was even talking about and didn't care anything about history. But anyway, so Michael Bennett says that he was leaving the nightclub. He was walking out the door with a group of white people. There was a report of shots fired in the casino. So as he was walking out with the group of white people, the Las Vegas Police Department singled him out because he was black, threw him to the ground, put a gun to his head, and told him that they were going to blow his brains out because of this. And this was all done because the white police officer, and he was a black man. Now, I'm really surprised that Michael Bennett didn't have anyone explain to him before he made the statement or wrote his letter that Las Vegas, Nevada is one of the few places in the country where you are on camera from the time you get off the airplane until the time you get back on there, everywhere you go, even in the street. So they reviewed the tapes of Michael Bennett. Oh, and I'm getting ahead of myself. The media reported this, and they reported it as, look at what the police do to black men. This is proof positive of racism and the police being at fault. They reviewed the tapes. The sheriff of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department had a press conference. There was only one thing wrong with what Michael Bennett said took place. It was a 100% total and complete lie.
Other than that, it was accurate.
Right. The first time that now remember, he was walking out, minding his own business. What happened was there was a report of shots fired. It turned out it wasn't shots fired. It was a stanchion that fell and dropped on some tile. It went off with a bang. It sounded like a shot. So the reports of shots fired went over. The Las Vegas Police Department responded. They have a Metro Police Department. They responded. They went into the casino. They told everyone, stay where you are, whatever. Okay, the first time Michael Bennett appears on tape in the casino is he's running crouched down. Now remember his statement. He was walking, minding his own business. He was with a bunch of white people. He was singled out because he was black. The first time Michael Bennett appears on tape is he's running crouched down and hides behind a bank of slot machines. Okay. The next time Michael Bennett appears on tape this is after the police announced everyone to stay. Michael Bennett appears running by himself out the back door of the casino. Now, I'm very familiar with that area. When Michael Bennett got outside, naturally there were other police officers there. They told him to halt because he was running from the scene of a report of shots fired. He jumped over a 7-foot embankment and out into traffic on Flamingo Boulevard. Slightly different story than what he
Few
told.
variations.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Jumped. That's when the Las Vegas Police Department, one guy went out, grabbed him, took him down, which, an NFL football player being taken down by a Metropolitan Police officer, doesn't say much for his football playing ability, but anyway, and told him stay where he at and whatever. Now here's the problem that I have with this. The original total and complete fabrication, total lie, was put all over the media as evidence of what racists are, how the police treat black people. It was completely wrong. When the truth came out, and at the press conference, the sheriff it was in great detail. He pointed to Bennett on the tape. He pointed to him. There was a recording of the interaction between the police and Bennett saying, "Hey, we had a report of shots fired here. We don't know who you are. We see you running. I mean, just." And Bennett kind of said, "Yeah, okay." The news media put this out to fan the flames of these protests. When they found out that it was a complete and total lie, there was no retraction. There was no saying, "Hey, wait a minute. We did a very great disservice to the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department. We put out a story that Michael Bennett told that was totally and completely false. We apologize for that, and we want nothing."
Well,
Nothing.
Tom, the trouble is that the days when the media could claim plausibly that they were impartial observers of the facts and simply were trying to transmit the facts, that's long gone.
Right.
The media today has what some people call a narrative or a storyline or an agenda, and they're looking for stories that fit what they want to present. And one of their primary stories is horrible racism in the United States, that this is a racist, bigoted nation. And that's what they want to put on the air.
It was the same situation in Ferguson with Michael Brown. There wasn't one single thing that the media put out and regarding that incident that was correct, other than the police officer and Michael Brown were in the same place at the same time. That's where it ended. Every single thing that they said, Michael Brown, the gentle giant, coming from his grandmother's house, dreaming about attending college, minding his own business, confronted by a police officer, put his hands up, don't shoot. He got shot. Nothing was the truth. I mean, the point is doesn't the media have any responsibility whatsoever?
They don't think so. Nope. And the people who make these charges aren't interested in the facts. When you point the facts, they're interested in the accusation and the mileage they get.
You forgot the old cliches that don't let the facts interrupt a good story.
Right. Well, we had a president in office for 8 years that didn't care about the facts.
I heard the line once. A fellow said, "Don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is already made up."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's another. There's also the old yellow journalism.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, today they have no pretense of being objective.
But again,
they can't even pretend to be objective.
To get back to the kneeling during the national anthem, they are kneeling in protest of something that is not taking place. They are kneeling, protesting something that is non-existent. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
And another thing, even if they have a grievance, do they think they're the only people in this country who have a grievance? Do they think that all the rest of us don't have aspects of the way our country is governed, or the way it was governed, particularly for the last 8 years, let's say, with which we were dissatisfied? But everybody doesn't display that by showing contempt for the flag and the national anthem.
Yeah, and again, if you ask them to be specific about what they are protesting, they wouldn't have the slightest idea. The media puts out statements made by different groups, members of the Black Lives Matter, and about, and it's disgraceful. They make statements like, every 15 minutes, a black man in this country is shot and killed by a white police officer. They put that out on the air. It isn't
God.
even, it's remotely true. But they put this out there.
What is true, and I've heard this statistic, is that the overwhelming majority of police officers, white and black, who are killed in the line of duty or shot in the line of duty are shot by young black males.
Oh, and that's one of the final points that I wanted to make about the Michael Bennett incident. Racism, right? White police. 3 officers had contact with Michael Bennett. 2 were Hispanic, 1 was black. I rest my case. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Really, it's disgraceful. It is really disgraceful. How you could
The
be
whole
that-
media.
how you could be
is
that
disgraceful.
irresponsible.
It seems to me, I think it's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys who said in effect that you have a right to protest, but if you protest the national anthem, you won't play. And that's what I think that all the owners, that's a position they should have all taken.
Yep.
If you are unwilling to stand for the national anthem and respect the flag that unites all of us as Americans, you don't play that day. So you take your choice.
And then you lose the money
That's part of
accordingly.
your
And,
job.
and I,
It's
if,
your job,
if the contract permitted it, I would dock them for their pay as well.
I remember once I saw a fire. It was, quite a rip-roaring fire. The next day I read about it in the newspaper, and it didn't even look like what I saw. It's completely different.
Well,
I
but-
found later what that happens is reporters see the fire, they write the story, and it's finished in the story, but it's not even finished on real life.
Oh, sure.
But the flag, our flag and our national anthem is not representative of the police departments. It's not representative of any
nation.
one group. It's representative. It's not representative of our government.
Right.
It's representative of our country, the United States of America. They don't get it, and to draw a line in the sand over something that, like I said, doesn't exist.
Would they get it?
They perceive that it exists, but it doesn't.
Would they get away with that in Canada? Would they get away with that in other countries? Not respect
Well,
their flag?
There are countries that would come down very severely on anyone. There are nations in this world that
Would they get away with it in North Korea?
No, there's something. It's something that's crossed my mind that I wanted to say. When when those who defend them say, "Well, they have a right to freedom of speech." Oh, this isn't speech. This is not speech. I grant they have a right to free speech. If these players want to rent a hall and give speeches about their grievances, they're free to do that. I mean, they can charge admission if they want or let people come in free, and they can stand there for hours talking. I'll defend their right to do that. But they're taking a captive audience. They're taking people who have come to the stadium to see a football game, and people who've turned on their television to see a football game, not to hear or see anyone's political point of view. So what they're doing is they're capitalizing on something that they're not entitled to use. Let them rent a hall and give a speech. Fine.
Of all the things,
Fair point.
of all the things that they could do to promote the situation in the black community, of all the millions and millions of choices, build a sports field, donate money for a reading program, do after school learning programs. I could go on all day long. Of all the things that they could do, this is the best they come up with, kneeling down for the national anthem. I mean, it's disgraceful.
Those other things wouldn't get them any TV time, though, Tom.
Well, you remember,
And they know that. They know that.
You know, this originated many, many decades ago at the Olympics when those two,
Right.
The Black
two-
Power salute.
when they
yeah.
gave that fist in the air,
Yeah.
and they were sent packing. They were ordered by the Olympic authorities. I don't know if the Olympic authorities would take the same position today, but at that time, they were ordered to leave the games for
Well,
what they had done to show disrespect for the national anthem.
The other one that came out a hero was Pence. He walked out of the game when they did that.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
You know, I think one of the
press criticized him.
one of the reasons why a lot of politicians, owners, business people, educators, I think they don't make a bigger thing out of this is because as long as they're protesting the police or the military, they figure, well,
They're not
they're
protesting.
not protesting against me. Well, we dodged that one.
But the
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
thing,
police, yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, the problem in the black community, yeah, it's the police. Yeah, that's the problem there.
and one of the problems is the NFL has traded on patriotism for many years. I mean, the flyby of the Air Force jets at the Super Bowl, the presentation, the big production of the national anthem and the military color guards, their ratings are down. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
their fans are not happy with this going on.
That's for sure.
And I understand one of the ways they're going to get around this, they're not going to they're going to avoid televising the national. In fact, and for many years they haven't been televising the national anthem at sporting events. They've been using that time to run commercials. But I think they're very concerned about this because
Well,
they
they-
know their fans are getting very irritated over it.
Well, I said, there is something called the Black National Anthem. It's an old song called "Lift Up Your Voice and Sing." I don't know. They play it at a lot of black rallies. They play when my sister was teaching at an all-black high school. I went to an event there, and they played the Black National Anthem. So I would suggest to these players, well, how about if we play the Black National Anthem, and then you can stand up, and everyone in the stands can remain seated. How will that work out for you?
But the problem, I think, is overshadowing all of this. You might say that the ultimate disrespect for this nation would be to burn the American flag. The Supreme Court has made that not a liable offense.
Well, what
It
is
doesn't apply to
interesting
this,
now,
but it's just what are symbols and what are the
Well,
nation
that gets
itself.
into they call
That's
it
a problem.
symbolic speech, but the
Yeah.
Constitution says freedom of speech. Now, how far do you extend what they call symbolic speech? To me, speech is speech. It's what I'm doing right now. It's talking. And how do you then extend that to all these other things which they claim are covered by the First Amendment?
well,
Yeah,
one of the
yelling
things that
fire in a crowded theater is always the example brought up. True. Yeah.
this black girl died in a freezer was it Hamilton?
Yeah, in Rosemont at the
Okay.
I forget the name of the hotel.
And she was apparently drunk, where she staggered and everything else. And how she got in the freezer, I don't know, but she froze. And they're trying to blame the hotel and everybody else
She
they
was
can.
19 years old, completely highly intoxicated, staying in a room that was paid for by a stolen credit card.
Yeah.
And the parents are shocked.
And she had drugs in her
Yeah,
system.
yeah,
it's a drug there.
and outraged. I mean, it's a tragedy. You don't want to see anyone die, but to blame, and again, it's blaming someone that is no responsibility. At one point, you have to take responsibility for your own actions.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then you're really lost.
As
This
a
is a different generation than we know.
Exactly.
And that's, you're right, that they don't take responsibility for anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's like I always said. It's always good to have somebody to blame. And
Yeah.
like I said, this business about, I worked in the black community 40 years ago. The same problems exist today that existed then. And the education, jobs, the economy. There's a multitude of problems. But to single out the single worst problem in the black community is the police is ridiculous.
Let me just say one other thing about it, and that is as a baseball fan who believes to this day that baseball is the greatest game ever devised and is and always will be our national pastime. I'm rather proud of the fact that there's been almost none of this in Major League Baseball. I think there were maybe one or two incidents of one or two players, but it's been almost non-existent in baseball. And baseball's ongoing, right? I mean, baseball has been in the height of the final weeks of the season while all this was happening in the NFL. So I'm rather impressed by the fact that it's football, which supposedly has replaced baseball. That football is the one where this is all taking place, and that it's not happening
Well,
in the national past.
I'll counter you a little bit. If you listen to all the names on the baseball team, most of them are from foreign countries.
Oh, yeah.
At least it seems that way.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think
No, but
the majority of
they
them-
won't
Hispanics
they won't
Well,
protest.
right or wrong, they all stand for the
Yeah.
Star Spangled Banner.
But I mean, another piece of evidence of them protesting something that isn't in existence is 74% of the NFL players are black. I mean, how can you cry? How can you cry racism?
And they ought to ask themselves, what other country in the world could they be making the money that they're making? If they could they choose a country and see where they could find a profession that's going to pay them what they're being paid to play professional football.
You know, it's misguided. You know, when I see someone do something like that, I'm right in the middle of being upset and angry, and or just feeling terribly sorry for these people. I mean, just feeling, you know, it's just such a shame that they just don't understand what they're doing.
I wonder if old Alvin Pete Rozelle would have handled this differently from the way Goodell has handled it.
Well,
I always had the
I know what-
impression
I know what
Rozelle was a
George-
pretty savvy
I know
guy.
what George Ellis would have. George Ellis would have handled it. Yeah. Or Vince Lombardi.
Lombardi, yeah. Yeah.
Well, there was also, to put a little more fire into it, there was a case in court where they came out with the edict that the many are responsible for the stupidity of the few.
Well,
You
that's,
know.
and then they got on Mike Ditka's case about, he made the comment he doesn't see the media, they set the table,
Oh, sure.
and they tell you there is racism on the police department.
yeah.
There's police
They don't say
brutality.
it's alleged. They don't
So,
use
right.
all those softening terms, alleged.
So if anyone says anything that says, well, you know what, I don't, the evidence really doesn't support that. There was a study done by Harvard, some professors at Harvard, you know, that very conservative institution, Harvard, and they said
but-
all this rhetoric about police brutality and police shootings and racism, the evidence doesn't support it.
No.
And it doesn't.
No.
Yeah, the trouble is the few, a couple times it happens, it's blown out of proportion. You
Well,
know,
again,
That's for sure.
it fits the media's agenda. It fits the media's
Right.
agenda. And stories that don't fit the media's agenda are left on the cutting room floor. You don't hear about them.
and they wonder how come the newspaper circulation is going down.
Oh, yeah.
Trump,
No,
and news
Trump
ratings.
really, you know, I'm not going to say he started this, but he got in on it when he said that the coach or the owner should fire that SOB, blah, blah, blah. Well, the media just,
Yeah, yeah.
anything he says, right, wrong, left, right,
Oh, yeah.
whatever,
Well, didn't Jimmy
they
Carter,
get in on him.
Didn't Jimmy Carter just say that Trump's the most criticized president in history?
Jimmy Carter said that.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Of all people.
Yeah, yeah. He
That's
just
a
said-
strange
he said-
quote.
Yeah, he says he's constantly-
Jimmy Carter was a nice guy, but that's about all I can say about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well.
that's like they talk about the worst president, and they're comparing Obama and Carter. At least Carter was an American. I mean, he was a Naval Academy graduate, and he was an American. He was misguided in a lot of things, but you can't compare him to Obama because Obama was not. I mean, he was not pro-United States. You know, I mean, it just they showed a photo of one of the players kneeling. And then they showed a photo of Obama on a podium. Obviously, they were playing the national anthem, and everyone was standing with their hand over their heart facing the flag, and Obama was facing
Except him.
the other direction with his hand down. And they say it started here.
That's interesting.
That should be
That's
worth
interesting.
Yeah.
investigating. Right.
Well, we're
Time for
coming
break
up on our
again.
break.
So it's okay. You've been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians, and we thank you for it. We'll be right back.
Well, friends, Old Man Winter is not that far away. Yep, next week we go into the month of November, and now is the time to think about your roof, siding, and gutters, and be ready for the bad weather to come for the next few months. You don't want drip, drip, drip on your ceilings in your rooms, or you don't want mold or damaged walls or leaky walls from bad gutters or bad siding. So now is the time to check and make sure that your home is all set and ready for the bad weather to come for the next few months. And you can do that by calling Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Mike Best will drive over in a shiny red pickup truck with ladders on top. He'll check out your roof, siding, and gutters, give you an estimate, and go from there. So once again, don't have double expense. Sooner or later, you're going to have to get them replaced. So call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. So make sure that you don't have drip, drip, drip on your ceilings or mildew in your attics or crawl space. Call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359 for a free estimate. And once again, Mike Best will drive over, look at your roof, siding, and gutters, give you an estimate, and go from there. You better hurry because Old Man Winter is not that far away. Again, be sure your roof, siding, and gutters are in good shape for the bad winter that's ahead of us. Call Best Brothers Roofing, area code 630-616-1359.
Now back to our show. John?
Well, this is John Escachoco back again, sitting in for Jack Ryan, our host. We're talking today about many things. We've talked about the tragic Our Lady of the Angels fire, and we had a call in from Jack, our host, and we spent the last half hour discussing the controversy over those who show disrespect to the flag and anthem of the United States. But our topic for today, one of the topics we want to talk about is Haunted Chicago, and that's kind of a lead-in to Halloween. We're just about less than 10 days away now from Halloween. And I thought I'd say a few words about the origins of this strange holiday. It's not really a holiday because no one gets the day off. I don't think anyone gets the day off for Halloween. So when you call it a holiday, it's kind of unique in that. But how it came to be is a fascinating story, and it all goes back to some people in Europe, in France and Belgium, that were called the Druids. And there are those today who still profess to be Druids, but they were what we would say a pagan people who lived on the fringes of the Roman Empire. When Julius Caesar conquered that area, he found them to be a superstitious nuisance. But the Druids celebrated the beginning of the new year on what we would call November the 1st. November the 1st was the beginning of their new year. So that makes October the 31st New Year's Eve for the Druids. And that sort of explains the origins of some of the nonsense and some of the strange things that go on. They would build bonfires on the hilltops on their New Year's Eve to ward off the evil spirits. And in order to build these bonfires, it said that the children would go from home to home or hut to hut seeking wood that could be burned. And it became kind of customary that if you gave them wood, they were happy. If they came to a hut and the proprietor there didn't have any wood for them, they might take revenge on them for not providing wood for the bonfire. Does that sound a little bit like our concept of trick or treat? So it's believed that was the beginnings of the origin of the idea of trick or treat. But if you think of the fact that for the Druids, October the 31st was New Year's Eve, it explains a lot. Because think of what we do even today on New Year's Eve. People go out and party, they dress up, they wear funny hats, they may even wear masks, they drink and celebrate. They may fire off firecrackers, and even there are people known to fire gunshots in the air on New Year's Eve. Well, the Druids had this same concept of revelry and kind of mindless celebrating. So all of that was part of the beginning of the idea that October the 31st was a time to do strange things. Now, when the church took hold in the Roman Empire, that's one of the reasons that they placed All Saints' Day on November the 1st. They wanted to counteract this pagan celebration on November the 1st, and what better way to do that than to put a special religious observance on that day. So November 1st became All Saints' Day in order to counteract this, but it didn't completely do away with all this old pagan revelry on October the 31st. And one of the ways in which it was continued, and some of this traces in part to Ireland, which has, of course, a Celtic background, is that there was a legend among the Celts in Europe at this time of a fellow named Jack. And Jack was a notorious miser. He was sort of Ebenezer Scrooge squared or cubed. He was a horribly, miserably miserly man, hated by all. And when Jack died, his record was so bad that he not only was obviously refused admission to heaven, he wasn't even permitted into the other place. And when Satan slammed the gates of hell in his face, Jack refused to leave. And so to chase him away from the gates of Hades, Satan scooped up some coals of hellfire and hurled them at him. Well, Jack picked up one of these hot burning coals and put it into a turnip. He had hollowed out a turnip, and he carried it as a lantern. And so the legend was that Jack wandered the earth between heaven and hell, no one admitting him, carrying this hollowed out turnip with flame, with the burning coals in it. So he came to be called Jack of the Lantern. And that soon was abbreviated to Jack O'Lantern. And so in the memory of this legend of Jack, children and even adults would, on October the 31st, they would hollow out a turnip in Europe and place a little candle in it. And that became known as a Jack O'Lantern. Well, when you had, particularly in the 19th century, when we had the great waves of Irish immigrants coming to our shores, they brought with them this custom. This was not widely known, say, in England or Germany, but it was well known in Ireland. But when the Irish came to America and became Irish Americans, they found that there was a much more impressive vegetable growing on these shores than a little turnip. And they found these beautiful orange squash that would make a much more celebrated memory of Jack O'Lantern, and that's how we got the pumpkin as the symbol of Halloween and as the memory of Jack O'Lantern. So it gives you some idea of the origins of October the 31st as a time for strange goings-on. The notion the Druids had that there were spirits in the air celebrating the new year. The idea of trick-or-treat, of children going from door to door collecting firewood, and if they didn't get any firewood, they would tip over your trash can or something of that sort. And the jack-o'-lantern, the great symbol of Halloween. So all of these things that we do, they have an origin. I mean, they have an ancestry that takes you back, in the case of November the 1st, more than 1,000 years to the early days of history, into the year 800, in fact, when roughly around the year 800 that November the 1st became formally recognized as All Saints' Day. So I thought I would lead off this discussion because I'm sure there are jack-o'-lanterns appearing in your neighborhoods and on your streets and byways right now. And we're just a matter of days away from Halloween, which is, some say it's that more money is spent in the United States on Halloween, on decorations and celebrations, than on any other holiday other than Christmas, which again is kind of odd for a holiday that really isn't a holiday. And so with that, I'll open the floor up to our discussion of the ghosts and the haunts of
Well,
Chicago.
before you go that far, two similarities. One, the old joke was how you make a squash. You drop a pumpkin. And the other one, the original term for telling the clock was like 1 of the clock.
1 o'clock, yeah.
So now it's changed down to 1
Yeah,
o'clock.
that's where that O comes from. And one,
Yeah.
one of the clock, and he was Jack of the Lantern.
Yeah, so that was similarities there.
Well, you're talking about spending. The Halloween spending is trending up. I just saw a statistic. In 2013, $6.9 billion was spent on Halloween. Last year, $8.4 billion. I mean, it's almost like a third higher. And this year, I don't know if it's just me, but I every year I see more and more people decorating their homes. When I was
Very
growing
much so.
up, I mean, I don't know, maybe I was in the wrong neighborhood, but I really don't remember anyone decorating their homes. I remember trick-or-treating, and I remember that, but the outdoor decorations now, they rival Christmas.
Exactly.
I can remember
Yeah.
as a kid, and I lived in the Hawthorne neighborhood of Cicero. I remember going trick-or-treating, and outdoor decorations might consist of a pumpkin on the front doorstep, or it might be in the window, a pumpkin with a light. And maybe there were a few houses where they would have like a scarecrow on a chair sitting in front of the door, or maybe dressed up as a witch. That was it. There were no tombstones. There were no enormous spiders. There were no lights. There were none of the things that we're seeing now.
There's a house on Cumberland Avenue across from Red Lobster. They celebrate every holiday. I don't know where they put the decorations, but the whole yard is full of decorations. And this is
They must have some
Christmas.
electric bill.
Yeah, this is Christmas, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July, Halloween. I have no idea where they put the stuff during the year because it's massive.
When I was a teenager, I got the job of decorating our store. We had a grocery business in Hawthorne, and for Halloween we had a few, and I still have them. I still put the decorations up in the window. A few cardboard witches and goblins and skeletons. That was starting to come in. These cardboard cutout decorations. I think maybe in the late '50s, the early '60s, but it wasn't anything on the scale of what you see now.
No, it's
Well,
You might buy a mask and
Well,
maybe improvised costumes. but
Another
that's the thing
ethnic
nowadays.
group that really celebrates Halloween is the Hispanic community. And if you've ever driven around a Hispanic area on Halloween, I mean, I remember the first time that I really noticed it. I mean, I didn't know there were that many Hispanic children on the face of the earth. I mean, the streets, 18th Street and 26th Street, because they
Yeah.
trick or treat in the stores. The traffic could barely move. There were so many kids.
Now, does that coincide with the
Mexicans
so-called
spell-
Day of the
The
Dead?
Day of the Dead.
I
The
think-
Mexicans celebrate.
Yeah,
We
I-
call
yeah.
what Catholics call All Souls Day, which is November the 2nd. All Saints Day, November the 1st, and All Souls Day, November the 2nd. When we remember all of the departed, all those who have left us. I think that's the day that
Right.
in Mexico and probably all of Latin America they call it the Day of the Dead.
Right.
So I think that may
Yeah, well,
tie in. I think for them that ties
correlation.
in.
I don't think anything goes to. Well, first thing, let me correct you. They're not Hispanic. They're Mexicans. Hispanics come from Spain, and the stupidity of it all. If you are born in Spain, you migrate to the United States, you're considered white. I had a friend.
Spaniards are. I don't think Spaniards would not meet the criteria for being called Hispanic, by what we use
Yeah,
in the United States. A Spaniard would not be Hispanic.
I met a guy. He said he was born in Spain. His parents migrated to South America. I forgot the country. He migrated to the United States. Now, because of the fact that he migrated from South America, he's considered Hispanic. But if he migrated from Spain, he would be considered white.
we're bringing up these holidays, and if you remember the beginning of the month, we had Columbus Day, and there's a movement going on now that they want to do away with Columbus Day, and I can't think of the name.
The day of the indigenous
Native
Americans.
American.
And I
Indigenous
thought,
Americans.
there we go again with
I
the
think
media.
California, they observe. They call
Yeah,
it Native
somebody
American Day.
does
Well,
it.
Yeah.
Jerry Brown.
But can you imagine?
People's Republic
Can you
of
imagine all
California.
those turkeys on St. Patrick's Day? What do you mean, Indigenous Day?
Well, that's because
You know,
of the fact
and the
that
Polish and the you know, come
Well,
on,
they-
what in the hell is happening?
They defaced a monument to Christopher Columbus. I
Yeah,
think in
that's right.
Baltimore, right around Columbus.
no, right
Day.
here in Chicago too.
Well, there was no, but there was one. There was a very
Yeah,
old
yeah.
monument that went back to the 18th century. It was built, I think, in the 1790s, and it was defaced this year.
Well, that's like when they were
Columbus.
tearing down the Confederate monuments down south. You know, where do you know where? Well, I'm sure you do. One of the largest and very beautiful Confederate memorials in the country is right here in the city of Chicago.
yeah.
Oak Ridge Cemetery.
Yeah, right. It's beautiful. It's called the Confederate Mound.
Yep.
I mean, I've been there many times, and it's
Well,
really nice. But fortunately, no one knows that, so we'll keep that under
They
our
do now.
hats.
They do
Yeah,
now.
yeah, right.
well, the trouble, people are trying to change history, and this is not Russia. You just can't change Russia history, by edict. History is history, no matter what happened.
Yeah, it's
And,
like ancient Egypt. Their name will be stricken.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All temples and pylons. Cedric Hardwick giving the order in the Ten
Cedric
Commandments.
Hardwick, right.
Strick his name from all pylons.
But the Indians, they despised Columbus because of the fact that he created all kinds of problems for them. So consequently, they want to change Columbus Day. And the Italians, which have
But the course of history was certainly changed much more after Columbus's arrival
yeah.
in the New World. And
Yeah, there's
I'd like to
several
see
books.
him
Eric
change
Loretta,
it
one of those earlier
and
guys.
then have
Yeah.
Columbus Day with what's his name, Frisco, or the guy that's the Italian.
Amerigo Vespucci.
No, this guy is up there now. Francisco, whatever, Dom Frisco, whatever his name is, and can you imagine?
Oh,
I've-
you mean the fellow that runs the parade
Yeah,
in Chicago?
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been in the
Francisco.
Columbus Day parade. We had we have a statue at the museum that came from the 1893 Columbian Exposition. A lot of people don't know that, but it was one of the statues that has been saved, and it's in decent condition. And we had it in. Fire department gave me a pickup, and we put it on there. And you should have seen the vanity of all of those Italian people. I can't say other words on on here. They all want it. Where did you get that? Where did
Oh,
you?
this-
What can we? They all want. They all want it, and we had to put a stop to it. This year, now that was about 6 years ago, whatever it was that we had it. They are still coming in and calling me. Are you guys going to come with that statue? And I want to see these, whoever they are, change that Columbus Day celebration.
The thing is, promoting Columbus doesn't necessarily mean negative to other groups.
No,
You can promote him. I mean, any historian will tell you that it's obvious Christopher Columbus did not discover America. It's like we all grew up with. Who discovered America? Christopher Columbus. We all know that isn't true, but we do know that he was a great explorer, and he did land here, and he probably started the movement.
And what is true is that while others, Leif Erikson and all these other legends, when Columbus came here, it opened up the
Right,
New
right,
World
exactly.
to colonization, which
Yeah.
none of the others had done.
Right.
There was a follow-up after Columbus. Other explorers came, and that led to the Spanish, the Portuguese, the French, the Dutch, the British, all establishing their footholds, which had not happened from any of these other explorers that supposedly got here earlier.
I went by
That's
and
why
said,
I-
"Hey, guess what we got? Guess what we saw?"
They realized that there was this new world on the other side of the
well,
ocean.
that's the reason why Indians hate them.
But that's one of the. I mean, that's one of the things that makes this country great. I mean, the ethnicity. You celebrate St. Patrick's Day, you celebrate St. Joseph's Day. celebrate Columbus Day. You know, I mean, Cinco de Mayo. You know, why not? That's what this country is all about.
Sure.
But be celebrating one does not necessarily mean you're anti the others.
And celebrating St. Patrick's Day or celebrating Columbus Day was never thought to in any way detract from being American. I mean, this was part of America.
Yeah.
And you would see as many American flags in a Columbus Day parade or a St. Patrick's Day parade as you would see Italian flags or Irish flags. I mean, it was always considered part of being American that you're celebrating your heritage. And
Well,
that's
you
what's
sh-
lacking sometimes
You should
today.
have seen the jealous looks that we had when we had that in that parade. Where did you guys get that? Where did that come from? I couldn't believe it. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So we've kind of opened the door now on this subject of Halloween. Rich, you had the book about the ghosts of Chicago. Are there any ghostly stories about Chicago history that you'd care to share with us?
Well, just
or-
in a broad sense, to open up discussion, it seems that most of the ghostly sightings in Chicago, perhaps elsewhere too,
other than
accompany
other than Election Day?
tragedies.
You mean Election Day? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of ghosts show up on Election Day.
And
Not anymore.
tragedies seem to bring out the sightings of ghosts. All right.
Well, there's one.
Like the Iroquois Theater fire, the Eastland disaster. Not so much apparently with the Our Lady of the Angel School fire. You don't hear many ghosts. There's not even a chapter in the book on that. But other major disasters, and sometimes those of us who wish we had undergone a paranormal experience would say ghosts come from bodies that are not at rest. If you have a major tragedy, a major fire, that might be the origin of a number of ghostly sightings and experiences. It seems that's often the case. But
Are there supposedly ghosts from the Eastland or from the Chicago fire?
well, people experience, not so much that they see apparitions or encounter somebody, but there's often what they call a cold spot. They sense there's something unnatural, like that alley next to the Iroquois Theater. They still talk about people in hot days wanting to go back there, and maybe it's a lack of lighting or a difference of ventilation.
There's Resurrection Mary too.
Yeah, that's another, yeah. There are maybe a lot of Resurrection Marys out there, according to this book. Not one that we seem to
But
focus
the-
on
Not that
most.
way.
But
But the one that is close to home here is Dunning Institution.
excuse me, Al, just so you know, there's a nice chapter here on hauntings at Dunning Cemetery.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
No.
the woman that seems to have the greatest satisfaction here is Ursula Bilski,
Right.
and she's written several books. And
Many
whether they're you got to take that with a grain of salt. Some of the stuff she wrote in there, but anyways, there's a website called CookCountyCemetery.com. It gives you a little bit of history of the Dunning site, and he's done extensive study on this. And but there's an estimated 38,000 people buried there, and some will never have their names known because a lot of them were
paupers.
not paupers, but they were stillborns. They put
Okay,
them.
well, that's
They used to put them out in the street. The cops picked them up,
Wow.
and they'd bury them. So it was a sad, situation. But you're also true. A lot of our paupers never had any identification or anything like that. And there was some. Actually, there's about 5 different places where the burials came from. One, Chicago fire. When they moved some of the people from the Lakefront Cemetery, the old Chicago Cemetery. There's some from the institution itself. I'm trying to remember the rest
The
of them.
old insane asylum.
Pardon?
The old insane asylum.
Yeah. Well, yeah. First of all, it was never really called Dunning. Dunning is
Yeah,
a euphemism.
Right.
Dunning was a guy, a Scots-Irishman, who came from the East Coast, married somebody from Canada, settled in what is now, I'll get there. But anyways, he settled in one of the suburbs, and he made his money during the Civil War, transporting produce back and forth from his farm. And they bought 120 acres, I guess, what's now essentially the corner of Addison and Oak Park to Narragansett. And I'm not sure what the exact parameters were, but I guess up to the Jewish cemeteries on Long Addison Street there. And most of it now is Mount Olive Cemetery. The original Andrew Dunning house still stands, although he couldn't recognize it's been modified considerably. It was at one time on Walnut Street. Now it's known as, I'm doing good for names today. But the addresses they used to give out was on Walnut Street near Irving Park. So that was a great address at one time.
Having trouble locating Walnut Street.
Well, yeah, it's
Quite a ways east?
it's 1 block east of Oak Park.
Walnut.
Yeah, this changed in 1909 when they made the major changes in Chicago. And the address they had, finally gave a number that's not relevant to anything. It's an N Street, and I can't think of the name.
Huh.
I'm doing good right now. But anyways, he was named after, he was quite wealthy and very influential in the area. And they put a terminal in there from the Milwaukee St. Paul Railroad into Dunning. And they wanted to name the terminal after somebody important in the area. And the name was Dunning. The other catch on that, too, was they had a village of Dunning at one time. Short-lived, but it was essentially at the corner of Oak Park and Addison.
Was he well known for pestering his customers to pay their bills, and that's why they say that's Dunning?
No, that's
Dunning.
that's an Irish name. Actually, there was 2 railroads going in there. There was another one coming up Montrose. It went into Dunning, and they met there, and that railroad only lasted about 10 years.
Sunnyside, yeah.
Of Sunnyside, actually, yes. So you could see why Sunnyside's so wide, because there was railroad right of way, and you could follow it through. And it went all the way up to I'm doing good for names.
We need Ken Little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, at Grayland Station and on the railroad, and it turned off there and all the way down to I don't do good at names. Anyways, it terminated, and but anyways, it's all dug up. You could see some of the remnants because of the wide streets and stuff like that. So you got Belmont at the intersection there, stuff like that. It's quite wide. Belmont.
We
and,
know of Sunnyside being very wide for
yeah. Well, it's
residential.
Forest Reserve Drive. It was actually in the boundary at one time. And so anyways, Dunning family was not happy with the name given to the institution, but the addresses was Cook County Hospital at Dunning.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty soon it's just got to be Dunning.
You have a big
And-
mall there, Dunning Square there at Narragansett and Irving. It's
Yeah.
interesting to have a
But
negative name there.
But 38,000 people estimated to be buried there. It goes all the way from Narragansett up to Oak Park. And right now they're going to build a high school there. And at least that's a proposal.
Oh, really?
Not everybody's happy about that.
A
Because,
public high school?
yeah, they want
No
an
kidding. I didn't know.
extension of Taft High School, but the catch on that, of course, is it's closer to Steinmetz than it is to Taft. And Steinmetz is not fully booked yet. So, they got all kinds of conflicts going on.
And you got near there the new veterans residence,
Yeah, that's
which is
another-
still incomplete and might be
That's a
right
nice
for
way of
ghostly
putting it.
sightings.
Yeah, it's been incomplete. It started about 10 years ago when the site was dedicated by Governor Quinn.
Yeah, that would be a Montrose and Forest Reserve Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's Oak Park and Forest Reserve Drive.
Okay.
And about a third of the building is up, and it's been sitting vacant now for at least 2 years. The lights are on, though. The weeds are growing
The
well,
electricity.
and they got trailers there. It must be costing somebody money.
Well, I'm wondering, too, if among us, some of us are naturally more susceptible to ghostly sightings and sensing the paranormal. I wish I were to some degree.
Well, of course,
I live in a house in which 3 people have died, family members. I wish I had some little bit of contact with them, but maybe that's all for the better that I don't.
You
Right.
mentioned the woman that wrote the book on the haunted places, and
Ursula Bielski is the big one.
yeah, also she runs a bus or
Yeah.
whatever she has now and that.
Tradition of Richard Crow and some of the other ghost hunters. Yeah.
Right. Well, her husband, and she doesn't mention his name anymore, is Dave Cowan.
Yeah.
Dave Cowan is the guy that wrote the book with Kunstler on the Our Lady of the Angels fire.
and let me offer a break at this time. We're coming up on our next segment.
Can I finish then?
Let's pick it up right after. We'll be right back after these messages of interest and importance.
From pain? Do you know someone that has constant pain of their low back, neck, shoulder, knee, or wrist? Have they tried medications, exercise, physical therapy, or chiropractic, and nothing seemed to make it better? Well, I may have your answer. Why not try a napropath? Hi everybody, this is Dr. Wayne Chickowitz, and I've been practicing 30 years treating pain. I'm board certified and hold a diplomate in pain management. For your convenience, we have 2 locations. In Cicero, 3602 South 61st Avenue, 708-656-7000, or in Villa Park at 122 West St. Charles Road, Suite 1A, 630-833-4007. Why not try a napropath and stop the pain today?
Now, back to our show. John?
Well, thank you very much, Rich Lang. We're coming back on our next segment. We're here discussing the haunts and ghosts of the city of Chicago. I'm going to turn over to Bill Kugelman just one second. But before I do, I want to mention that we're in our underground bunker at our undisclosed location. This is the John DeVita Broadcast Center, and we're deep underground in a highly guarded and clandestine location. But this our bunker is very well decorated for the coming of Halloween. I see miniature jack-o'-lanterns and ghosts and goblins and skeletons and skulls. And not only that, but one of our panelists, Al Obitz, is here with a bright pumpkin-colored suspenders, braces in honor of the holiday. So we're quite well turned out for the upcoming harvest. And of course, our bunker, I don't want to give anything away about the location, but it is the above ground portion of our headquarters is very well decorated with pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns and corn stalks and all the seasonal
Next
regalia.
thing you're going to say, John, is that this place is haunted.
Well, I would have to defer to our producer. I suppose we call him our executive producer, John DeVita, who's responsible for the decorations. So if you knew the location, which of course you don't, but you would certainly recognize that this is a clandestine location that is well turned out for the coming Halloween.
Well, if you think this is well decorated, you should go up to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, W5419 Walworth Drive in the Lake Wandawega subdivision.
Your country estate.
My country estate. That is really decorated, and I want to thank my partner Oscar and my business partner Bob, because they were up last weekend fighting the weather. Not this weekend, but last weekend fighting the weather. We have 25 corn stalks around the area. We've got about 30 pumpkins by the trees. We have ghosts, we have goblins, we have scarecrows, and then of course, me being the big sound guru that I am, I have speakers around the house and it plays scary music. And when the kids come to the door for trick or treat, I have a little something that I do, and they really enjoy it. You're talking about Christmas and everything. My electric bill for Halloween alone, just for the outdoor decorations, comes to about $75 at Halloween time. One year, my electric bill at Christmas time was $150 for all the decorations I do up there at Christmas Christmas time. So, but that is really. I should somehow or another get pictures and bring it and show you guys what
That would be great, yeah.
But if our listening audience out there, if anybody is up in Elkhorn area, Elkhorn is 15 miles north of Lake Geneva on Route 12. You can give me a call. I'll be more than happy to escort you to the place. My phone number is area code 312-320-5515.
So you can take guided tours
Oh, yeah,
of the
definitely.
John
Oh,
DeVita
yeah.
Estates up
That's
in
right,
Elkhorn,
yeah,
Indiana.
uh-huh.
I think that's listed on the to-do guide with the state of Illinois and the
Yeah, it
state
should
of
be.
Wisconsin.
And up on my big radio tower, I have a great big moon that's up there that's all lit up and looks very nice.
So what we're seeing here at the John DeVita Broadcast Center, that's just the excess, the spillover from what you have.
That's not even a pimple on for what's up there.
Are you saying that you every night you get mooned, John? Is that what?
Well, we'll just leave that go.
So I just wanted everyone to know that we're discussing Halloween in a very Halloween atmosphere here in the deep underground bunker at the John DeVita Broadcast Center. But I had to break into Bill Kugelman when we came up on our last break. So Bill, would you like to continue in the
Yeah,
point you were making?
John. I was just saying that the ex-husband of Bilski is Dave Cowan. Dave Cowan and a fellow by the name of Kunstler are the ones that wrote the book on Our Lady of the Angels Choir, and he was just, I mean, he was like an angel to those people. They just, he did such a good job. It was a bestseller, blah, blah, blah. Told the story the way it was. Well, just got out of the federal pen here not too long ago. He was in there because he set fire to a school and to a church. He set fire to a couple of well, to make a long story short, he was an arsonist.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, of course, the OLA people all know this. They want no part of him. I believe that Mrs. doesn't want any part of it either. Her business has gone down the tubes.
Really?
When people, yes. Where we have our Wednesday morning breakfast at Dapper's, the bus comes in or a van comes in from St. Benedict's, and those people are.
They order eggs.
It's one of the fires that he set was at Benedict's, and that's where they lived in that neighborhood, and she would have those people along for these haunted house trips that she had. So another thing that we just don't know about. I may as well get into it. I wanted to mention it that as the fire chief over there in the city of Chicago and around the city, around the suburbs, it was always on my mind on these different places that set up a ghost stories and a haunted house type place. One of them is right down the road here, and I will say that one of them was a Catholic school, and it just was always on my mind around that time, and I was tough on them. Make sure that it's safe here. because they just didn't care, just so they could scare people and make it dark and make it jammed in. And,
Oh yeah, these haunted houses are.
Oh, yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah.
They're terrible, Tom. And I
Is
know
there-
that
is there any
it
city-
went all the way to
Is there a city code for those?
Well, there's a fire prevention code, sure.
Yeah, but I mean,
sure.
nothing.
And they all
nothing specifically directed to
not
those.
not at just at that. No.
Yeah,
No.
stay away
How
from
many are in
Excelsior.
parochial schools? It's amazing.
Well,
the,
and that's the
haunted houses.
parochial school.
Yeah.
They were the
Yeah.
worst. It went all the way down to the chancery on what I was doing up there, because they were making money like bingo,
Yeah, bingo store died too.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd. I mean, it's kind of odd because, in a way, if you look at it, that is contrary to the Catholic Church. I mean, the belief in all of that Halloween.
Yeah, oh, yes,
I mean,
yeah.
you could make an argument that's
Yeah.
really not appropriate for a Catholic church or a Catholic school
Well,
to sponsor that
Christian
sort of thing.
type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
pagan
Yeah.
ceremonies were indoctrinated into the Christian church
Oh, no
because of
doubt.
the fact they wanted to get the pagans.
Well, they
into
were
Christmas.
they were suppressed. They were in the sense that the church wanted the celebration to suppress these pagan events, but I mean the church never sponsored pagan celebrations, but some of them just continued along
Right.
underneath. In addition to
Santa
Well,
Claus was probably a
Well, the other,
Saint
the other-
Nicholas. No,
the
that was
Christmas
Saint
trees.
Nicholas.
Christmas trees, long pagan ceremony as such, because actually started out as they wanted to bring something green in during the Christmas.
Yeah, the greenery, but not the tree. It was more greenery. The
Yeah.
tree really began with Martin Luther. Martin Luther was the original.
Oh, we're
of the
celebrating
Christmas
500
tree.
years of his encyclicals.
My
Yeah.
point is, you people that are listening, be careful at these haunted house, scary
Good point.
places. They can be very, very scary. The only scary thing that I had when growing up was a little park. Some of you may remember it, around Western and Belmont.
Ah.
And they had a haunted house in
Grand,
there.
glorious Riverview.
Yeah.
The house,
Tom Baker.
the House of Hades, in Riverview.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
Latin's Castle.
Yeah,
But
Aladdin's
if you
Castle.
look at it and remember it, seemed to be pretty safe. Something happened, really happened.
I was there once that I can remember, and I'm glad to be able to say I do remember Riverview. Sure. Did go there once.
Yeah, they used to
Do
have.
they do much specific for Halloween, though? We all remember Aladdin's Castle.
Yeah.
But was there something like a haunted house that was...
Not specifically.
They
I
had
don't
it
think
there
so.
all year long.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, in that sense,
and
sure.
to
Yeah.
go there just for Halloween, no.
Yeah, I don't
we had
remember
other
it.
things to do.
It's
in
like
Halloween.
Great America does the Halloween themed.
Well, Riverview Park closed down. They were only open from Memorial Day to about Labor Day. So,
That's
So
Uh,
they
yeah,
so they
that's the
weren't
best
they
point
weren't
ever.
they weren't in operation.
no, they were not
that's
on
right.
operation
Yeah,
for
good
for
point.
Halloween.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
But
point.
they did have the haunted house, and I went through it a couple times.
One thing I do like, we're talking about decorations, and kind of leads in with what John was saying, and that is, that these ghastly Halloween decorations with all the tombstones and gigantic spider webs, that's becoming more prevalent. But a better aspect, I think, is the harvest decorations, which you're seeing much more today. The corn stalks,
Yeah.
the pumpkin, the squash, the bales of hay. I like that. I like seeing those harvest
Actually,
decorations
It is
around.
harvest time.
Yeah, that I remember going downtown once. I went to DePaul University, from which I graduated many years ago. I came in the main entrance. They had this beautiful harvest display with the bales of hay and the corn stalks and everything. And it was nice in the middle of downtown, the Loop, to see that reminder of America's roots with the harvest. So that's an aspect of it that I do like.
Lincoln Park, the zoo, has quite a display. Always has. Remember that as a kid. That they have a big thing on Halloween and to celebrate that. Of course, at this time, kids are back in school too.
Okay, now I have a question to ask. Bill, you should know this. Where was there a real big Halloween display up on the northwest side?
It was,
It was
It
a
involved
big-
a waterfall.
That's right, Olson Rug Company over
the rug
at
company,
Diversity and Pulaski,
Pulaski,
right across the street from Engine Company number 91 quarters.
Yeah.
They used to have a beautiful, beautiful water display there and a beautiful, wonderful Halloween display.
I don't-
Until
do they do anything now anymore?
I haven't been over, but the
It's just
display.
a parking lot.
Yeah. Now the display that was at Olson Rug many years ago, and I mean that's when I was a little kid. Now that display is out at Sunny Acres on North Avenue, right out by the DuPage Airport. In other words, Sunny Acres is here, and then a couple miles down is the DuPage Airport on North Avenue. And I forget what town that is out there.
Now, is that still? the
It
same
was
outfit?
it was out there, Bill, about maybe about 5 years ago. And when I went out there, I bought all kinds of Halloween decorations that I have up in Elkhorn, pumpkins and a pumpkin on a pedestal and scarecrows, and I bet you I spent well over $250 there one year buying lights and on all this stuff. And I agree with what you said, John, about the corn stalks. The corn stalks and the pumpkins, that's like the old harvest, like the old time, the old Western days.
Yeah.
When and that's exactly how my house up in Elkhorn. Or even here, you can see it here. You can see the corn stalks right here at our broadcast center here.
We all remember the cartoon Indian Harvest. and
Yes.
Oh, yes,
John
yeah,
McCutcheon.
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
But
That really set the tone.
But the display,
Another
there
thing,
was a man.
politically
There was wasn't a bill. A gentleman sitting on a wagon on hay, and he was talking to a little boy reading a book or reading something at Olson Rug. Well, that display now, at least it was the last time I was out that way, at Sunny Acres, and they got a big pumpkin farm out there. They got it's a wonderful setup they have out there. It's on North Avenue, just before you get to the DuPage Airport out there.
Now, is that still the Olson Rug?
Oh no! This is the Olson Rug is gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the display that was at Olson Rug is out at Sunny
right.
Acres.
how's it related to Pheasant Run?
You know, it's not that far away from Pheasant Run out there, Al. I say Pheasant Run is still a couple miles further west of Sunny Acres and at DuPage Airport. Yes.
And John, when you said North Avenue, I thought right away of something I think we might all remember, Amlings.
Oh, yes.
Not so much
Amling.
Halloween, of course, but autumn.
Yes,
Autumn.
autumn.
Don't forget Harvest Moon's about this time of the year too.
You know, really, this weekend and today is really the beginning of the weather seeming to be October and fall and Halloween. I just started putting my decorations up over the weekend. I'm about a week late, but that was in part because of that deluge that we had a week ago on Saturday, which kind of derailed my plans. I'd intended to do it last Saturday, but today's the first day that it seems is that the weather conforms to the calendar, because for the last 6 weeks it's been like an extended summer.
Just before we went on the air, I checked the weather, and I see 30 degrees, 38 degrees for temperature.
We're talking about frost this weekend.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's time to turn the old heater on.
Yeah, I broke down today and turned mine on.
Let me put in a plug while I'm thinking of it. This coming Saturday, for those of you that like Halloween-themed events, I every year try to make it out to Sycamore, Illinois, which is the county seat of DeKalb County. So it's part of the metropolitan Chicago area. But their theme is the pumpkin. They're the pumpkin capital of Illinois, at least, maybe of the country, and they have a huge pumpkin parade this coming Sunday, the 29th. It's a beautiful parade. It goes on for about 2 hours. All of the local counties and townships and school districts participate in it. But the thing to see, if you go out to Sycamore, they've got the old-fashioned county courthouse and a courthouse square. And on this square, all the kids from the area decorate pumpkins, and they have any number of categories and contests and prize winners. So if you can imagine this large courthouse square just covered with pumpkins, all divided up into divisions, kids from 3 to 6 and 6 to 8 and 8 to 10 and teenagers. They have a theme every year. It is really something to see. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, go out to Sycamore, Illinois. All the stores have pumpkin-themed sales, and as I say, they have the parade on Sunday. But it's really worth a trip, and just you can spend a long time just walking up and down the pathways and looking at all the pumpkins. And these kids some of them are really clever. They're really elaborate.
It sounds like it's the Halloween capital of the.
It really is. I mean, they'll have pumpkins decorated to look like Albert Einstein and Marilyn Monroe and the Cubs and the Sox, and they're all it's just anything you can imagine. And families of pumpkins with little pumpkins, and some of them are carved for the older kids, the teenagers. I mean, the carving is really elaborate, the large. And then they have a prize for the biggest pumpkin. You know, they have one there 300 or 400 pounds of pumpkin.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a plug for Sycamore, Illinois, the pumpkin capital of America.
Did you see?
And that's this coming weekend, John.
This coming weekend is
Right.
the culmination
Yeah,
of it.
no,
It's
sir,
always
Halloween,
the weekend
right.
before Halloween, so it'll
Got
be
it.
this coming weekend. I go on Saturday, but the parade is on Sunday. Sunday afternoon.
Last
Well,
night on the news, they had these large pumpkins, and the people were in them, and they were having races in the lake somewhere.
Oh, I saw
I
that.
think.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you see that?
Yeah.
It was in
Huge
Pennsylvania
pumpkins
or
hollowed
somewhere.
out as canoes,
Hollowed out,
yeah.
and they were canoes, and they
Yeah.
were, you know.
They don't
going
last very long. They
around.
go and sink a little bit. But the Illinois is known for the largest producer of pumpkins
Yes.
in the United
Yes.
States.
It's surprising. You wouldn't think of that, but we are the largest pumpkin producer in the United States.
But yeah, like I said before, it's harvest moon time too. So we go out there and the moon turns a little bit of orangey.
Yeah.
And they said there was a reason
Then
for
stop drinking, you know.
No, it
Cork
has
up
to
the
do
bottle.
with the impurities in the air, mostly seeds and stuff
It
like
used to
that.
be burning leaves. I think it had something to do with the burning leaves back
Yeah,
in the
some
days
people
when
still do.
Now,
burn
there's a
leaves.
tradition a lot of us remember as kids.
Oh yeah,
that no
I used to
longer.
love that.
The
The
smell of
burning
burning
leaves,
leaves, yeah.
smell of burning leaves.
I
Yeah.
guess all suburbs have discontinued that now too.
I remember
Yeah.
my dad burning the leaves. I would come home from school and I would get to go out and kind of poke them around and
Oh,
keep it
yeah.
under control after
Yeah,
school.
that was mostly because people are with asthma and stuff like that
Yeah.
have
It
a
was a
problem
problem.
with it. But
Garages occasionally burning down.
Well, if you people enjoy burning leaves, I invite you to come up to W5419 Walworth Drive.
You'll provide
in
us
Elkhart. I got 15,000 square feet of property that's probably got right now as I'm sitting here. Probably about an inch of leaves on the grass. Because Friday when I got up there, I cleaned all the leaves. Saturday, I just sat in the screen house and I just started to get tears in my eyes because the wind was blowing and all the hard work I did Friday was just covered Saturday with leaves.
Can you still burn leaves up
Oh,
there,
yes.
John?
Oh,
You still burn
yes.
Will they allow burning of leaves up in Wisconsin?
Yes, on my property I can.
Not around me. I got 40 acres of those, John.
Yeah.
And there's no burning there. at
Well,
all.
there's, like I told one day, I was, we have a place where we dump our grass clippings. And the kid come up to me, he says, John, you're not supposed to dump there. I says, for the amount of taxes that I pay to Walworth County and the town of Sugar Creek, I'll dump where I want to dump. And they're not going to tell me where I can, where I can't dump. And same thing up there. I got a great big burn pit, and then my sister and I, we rake the leaves or we blow them into a pile and put them in a container, dump them on the pile and let them burn. And I love that smell. It does.
Unforgettable smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking about being politically correct about burning leaves and the environment, there's some areas that prohibit trick-or-treating for children because it's bad, the consumption of candy and sugary foods is bad.
Well, they restrict hours
It's
a
bad
I
lot.
wonder if
for
the
them.
county they could tax trick or treaters. The Preckwinkle could have armed guards out there taxing the kids as they're making them pay their tax on all the candy.
Don't
right.
give her any ideas.
Yeah, right.
yeah, soda tax, I'm sure Wooddale appreciates me coming out there to buy a soda out there instead of here in Chicago.
Well, that is
Well,
history now.
thankfully, that absurd tax will come to an end on December the 1st, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right.
what I say.
And it's just amazing. It's fascinating that they tax the drinks. They didn't tax the sugar itself. They didn't tax candy
Or
cake,
donuts, yeah.
or pie, or all the other, or cereal. With cereals,
And-
many
and-
cereals
right.
are loaded with sugar.
And they tax sugar-free drinks.
yeah, and they were taxing or things like orange juice that had no
tax-
added sugar.
They did it to the wrong people.
Natural
Yeah.
juices that just had natural sugar, they were taxing that.
Well, no, the orange juice and full juice is not taxed.
They were, but there
But
were
they're
stores
loaded with
that
sugar,
were
though.
taxing.
They are loaded with sugar.
There were stores that were taxing because
Okay.
it was too
That's a
it was too
problem,
much of a
too.
headache to
Yeah.
separate it out. So they just taxed everything.
Yeah.
The next thing ridiculous is this 7 cents for a plastic bag.
Oh, the Burke tax?
You know,
Right.
Yep.
It's
So
the
you-
nanny state. It's the state telling you how to live and when
I,
we know what's
I
best
shop
for
in
you.
Norwich all the time anyway, so that doesn't bother me too much.
Good
But,
idea.
uh,
I should do that, yeah.
To be honest with you, gentlemen,
Live free or live in Cook County.
to be honest with you, all my food that I buy at Walmart in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
There you go.
I don't
And
go
then
to
the
Walmart.
and then the bags, those plastic bags. Well, I have a pile of them right here by the door as you come into the building here. But I keep a whole big thing of them in the truck. And when Oscar goes to someplace and needs a bag, he takes it out of the truck, takes it in, and otherwise he has to pay. The only place I buy food here is at Buterra's right here at Cumberland and Lawrence. Other than that, everything is bought. Even today, I bought four bottles of soda.
Well, I imagine your sales tax is substantially lower up there than what it is here.
Meat, potatoes, butter, bread. Other than potato chips or pop or anything, there's no tax on it. So in other words, I spent today. I spent $75. I paid $75. Out of the $75, I paid $1.15 for tax.
Hey, John, I'm going to give our listeners this is a classic where there's a will, there's a way
Yes.
to circumvent the 7 cents a bag tax.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I probably should be saying this, but I'm going to give our listeners a little trick of the trade to get around the 7 cents fee. When you walk into the grocery store of your choice, Jewel, you walk to the produce section, you take one or two of their plastic bags, which are free,
Yeah, those
stick them in your pocket, and then when you go up and you check out and they say, do you need a bag? You say no, and you wheel your groceries out of the line, and then you take the plastic bags from the produce department
Interesting.
and fill your groceries, and you saved yourself
We do.
7 or 14
I wouldn't
cents
have had
or
the guts to
21
do that.
cents.
We take the bags from Walmart, then we put them in our pocket. And when we go over here, we put all our stuff in the
Right.
Walmart bag.
Well, I got these totes in my car, so we pull the totes out and take them along. They're stronger, so your plastic bags, if you load them up,
can break.
they have a tendency to tear.
Get a
And-
good canvas bag.
Yeah, canvas.
I remember an episode of Green Acres where Eddie Albert doesn't know that he's been bugged, that this little kid who's an electronics whiz has put a little microphone in the bedroom, and he's talking about how, as a lawyer, he experienced people trying to cheat on their income taxes. And it's being broadcast, and Sam Drucker's in his general store listening to this, and Fred Ziffel comes in and says, "What are you listening to, Sam?" He's, "Oh, it's the Tax Evasion Hour." He's Oliver Douglas hosts the Tax Evasion Hour. So you've been listening to the Tax Evasion Hour here on Meet the Chicago Historians.
The bag evasion.
But it's amazing. I think we have I believe Cook County has the highest sales taxes in the nation.
I think you're right.
I think we
Over 10%,
over
yeah.
10%. It's just
And in
it is
the,
outrageous.
in the area downtown, in the Loop area, they have an added tax down there
Yeah.
also.
Worse,
Restaurants
worse,
will do it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a restaurant
Oh, yeah.
association.
Yeah, it's a special district tax.
It's like, I think the I think the hotel tax is up to like 20%.
It's quite high, yes.
It's mind-boggling.
And I just heard something, we were talking about the Chicago budget, all the new taxes that the mayor is proposing. There's some new variations on some of these taxes.
Yeah.
Well, when the
Telephone tax.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the amusement tax, I guess.
Well, that's when the state legislators just raised the tax up to income tax to 4.9, let's say 5%. I'm sure they were looking out the windows in the state capitol going, well, they got to be marching on us. They just have to be. The pitchforks and the
lanterns,
torches,
yeah.
and then they're looking around and going, what? We did it to him again. we got him again.
Yeah. Well, Cook County was surprised at the rebellion of the 1 cent tax, and they're rescinding it because of the rebellion. And it can be done again.
I guess they thought they could get away with it. Well, we're coming up on another break, so I'll turn it over to our announcer.
And we'll be right back after these messages of interest and importance. See you soon.
Well, friends, do you need a carpet for your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, family room, or even your outdoor patio? Well, the place to go for a great deal is the Carpet Warehouse, located at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago. Or you can call the Carpet Warehouse at area code 773-283-0100. So remember, for a great deal on any carpeting you might need, your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, family room, or even your outdoor patio, go or call the Carpet Warehouse, and they are located at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago, and their phone number is 773-283-0100. They are just east of Cicero Avenue or the Kennedy Expressway exit on the north side of Montrose. Carpet Warehouse, 4300 West Montrose Avenue, and their phone number is 773-283-0100. For a great deal on any carpeting you might need for your home, give them a call, the Carpet Warehouse, 4300 West Montrose Avenue, 283-0100.
Now back to our discussion. John?
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is our final 30-minute segment of our October Halloween and Harvest Festival celebration on Meet the Chicago Historians. I'm John Escacholco, sitting in for Jack Red Ryan, and this will be our last segment of our panel for this month of October. And we've kind of covered the waterfront on a number of topics. One thing I just wanted to say, we mentioned baseball briefly a couple of times, the Cubs not being in the World Series. I had this thought, and that is that after winning the World Series last year, proving that any team can have a bad century, as they said about the Cubs, that the Cubs will never again be able to hide behind the title of being lovable losers. That now people expect the Cubs to produce the way every other ball team has been expected to produce. And now when the Cubs lose, it isn't, you don't just shrug it off and say, well, that's the Cubs, they blew it again. Now I think people are going to be far more demanding of the production of the team and the manager and everything. And so they had the excitement of winning the series, but like they say, everything is a trade-off. And I think they've lost that image that they had for so many years of being America's favorite lovable losers.
Yeah, the novelty is worn off. The badge of I'm a Cub fan, even though they lose, I'm still a Cub fan, is now gone.
Yeah.
The other way of putting it, though, is the city loves the fact that they won because now they're taxing the hell out of the neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, the city taxes everything that moves and probably some things that don't move. But
Will you start getting taxed for breathing?
Yeah,
It'll
well,
come.
That's on the county's agenda.
Well, they always say that the only reason they haven't taxed the air you breathe is they haven't figured out a way to meter it.
They will.
Well, what's interesting though now, on taxes, they're complaining they don't have any road tax, but they're increasing the efficiency of the cars,
Yep.
so they're not using as much gas. So consequently, the road taxes are going down. And Utah figured out a way of getting around that. They're going to tax you by the mile, and they're going to put the what do you call it?
Which leads to the fear that they can trace your
Odometer.
driving. They
Yeah.
can put something in the car that'll monitor where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just make a point, and that is that it is a fact that most of the states surrounding Illinois have cut taxes in recent years. It is possible to run government in the 21st century and not raise taxes. It's
I got
actually
it.
possible to cut taxes.
I got a tax for Mr. Rahm and Rauner.
Yeah.
Bicycles.
Oh God.
These
Oh, those things are
bicycles are unreal anymore. And,
they're dangerous. On top of it,
and then they get away with not the motorcycles. They pay taxes and that, but these other, what do they call them?
Pedal cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the ones that you can. They have a station for the
yeah.
Rental bikes, yeah.
The rental bikes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
I
sure
mean,
they
this-
tax those.
Come on,
In certain areas,
it's
though, since they're
getting nuttier and nuttier.
Well, I think they have
with
people
these
in government
bicycles.
that just figure out new things to tax. And
Oh,
that's their only job,
absolutely.
I think, is to figure out some new angle for a new tax that can be
The
imposed.
thing is,
on
that killed me about Preckwinkle when she said, "Well, if we don't enact this tax, or if they vote it out, we're going to have to make cuts."
Whoa! Oh, that would
Well,
be
that's-
horrible.
it-
That would
That's
be
kind
horrible.
of that's kind of how it works. I always have to laugh when someone says, "Well, we had no alternative but to raise taxes." I said, that would be like going into your employer and saying, "You know what, boss? I've been going over my bills. I just don't have enough money. So the only alternative is you're going to have to give me a raise." I mean, that's
Like
the
put it
only
that way,
alternative.
Yeah.
The other line I love is when at the national level when they talk about cutting taxes and the news media say, "Well, this will cost the government, $40 billion over." Cost the government? It's as if that money belongs to the government. It's as if the money we earn
We
and
are the
create,
government.
it's as if it really belongs to the government. They get to keep whatever they want and whatever they generously allow us to retain after they've taken away their share.
I talked about this with other people my age, and I'm sure everyone on the panel will agree. When we were growing up, did the thought ever cross your mind that if you don't make it, in other words, if you don't have a job, if you don't have money, if you don't work, that somehow the federal government will take care of you? I mean, it never crossed. Now that's all you hear.
Food
Free,
stamps.
free education.
free this, free that,
Free,
free
yeah,
that.
free. Yeah, what's free? Did
Somebody's gotta
you
pay
see?
for it.
I kind of throw this in because I thought it was pretty amusing. Some college in Florida, Trump's new tax plan. They told the college kids that it was Bernie Sanders' plan. Did you hear this?
No.
Oh, and they thought it was fantastic. Yeah, and then they told him it was Trump. It was Trump's plan. It just shows what morons these kids are.
We were in Denmark a couple of years ago, and there they have free, quote unquote, free medical, free education, everything else. But their taxes, like income tax, is 50%.
Oh, yeah.
Plus everything else is taxed.
Scandinavia in
On,
general.
on the continent of Europe, the level of
60%,
taxes people pay is no American would dream of paying the level of income tax that they pay in Europe. That stuff isn't free. I love the other they say it's free. You're paying for it.
Plus the fact that they're medical. A lot of places, if you have a hip replacement, you can't go back for another year.
Oh, yeah.
Canada's like that.
Yeah, and Canada's like that.
And how many
Can-
Canadians come across the border to be treated in the United
Well,
States?
there was a story once. I remember Parliament in Canada had to have open heart surgery, and they don't do that in Canada because it's too expensive. They sent him here to the States. It was not authorized, so the United States got hung for paying for his bill.
Or there's a waiting line. You may
Yeah,
need
you wait.
surgery, and maybe in 7 or 8 or 9 or 14 months we'll have an opening for you.
Well, yeah, another thing that always kills me when you hear people talk about, well, it's terrible that a country as great as the United States of America, that there are people without health care. There's no one in this country without health care. they are without insurance, but they have health care.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all these shooting victims. They go to the hospital,
Yeah.
they get treated, they get
Yeah.
patched up. No,
Emergency rooms.
They can't turn anyone away.
Right.
You know, you go to the emergency room and you've got whatever's wrong with you. They've got to treat you. So it's an insurance question. It's not a health care question.
Well, they say it's a right. Oh, when was this passed? When was the Constitution amended to say that people have a right to full health care at taxpayers' expense?
Well, you see these kids off. I remember years ago I was talking to a guy. He was a business owner, and there was a beggar on the street, and we were talking about it. I said, yeah, I offered one guy a job, and he says he wants, at that time, it was $40 a day, no taxes, no nothing, just cash. You know, he didn't want any responsibility for anything else. He just wanted his $40. And that was it. Of course, now that's, not much money anymore, but still, at that time, it was a day's salary.
Something on the news last night about businesses, not just taverns, but businesses, that they're coming in and cash only. No more cards. No more cards. Cash only, and they're saying that's illegal to ask that.
No, it's not illegal.
That's what they're saying.
I know, but
That's what they're
here's the
saying.
one that comes out now. There's people out there that said no cash, you want credit cards only.
Yeah.
Now that's illegal because the fact
I
that
would think so.
Legal
it's
tender.
all tender.
Legal
But I think some restaurants and such are trying to get away
Well,
with
the
it, maybe
reason-
even doing it.
In my
Right,
opinion,
yeah.
the reason that a lot of businesses want a cash only is because they can skim the money off of away
Exactly.
from Uncle Sam.
Exactly.
That was always the cash business.
Well, you got to remember when we were growing up, how much was sales tax?
I can remember
3-4%, I
I
think,
can remember it was
yeah.
4% because my family had a grocery business, and it was like 4, and then it would go up. It would go up to 4.25%. It was a big news when it went
Well,
from
when I-
4 to 4.25%.
When I was 2 cents on a
That was when
dollar.
I was a kid, so-
2%.
Wow, I don't remember. That's
Not low.
That's when I was
When
growing
it
up.
first began.
I remember I had to go to a place, and I had some money in my pocket. I was hungry, and I had a hamburger. I had to pay a penny for the tax on the hamburger. Now, if I would have bought 2 hamburgers, it would still be the 1 cent. But because I bought 2 different purchases, I had to pay 2 cents for taxes. So, I mean, that's how much it's increased.
Yeah.
Well, from my time when I was a kid in the 50s, I remember it being 3.75%, 4%, 4.25%, 4.25%. So it's more than doubled. I mean, that's we're
easily,
in Cook County, so it's more than double. It's
Yeah.
what 10.5% now in
Something like
Cook
that.
County.
Well, young kids now, millennials as they are referring to them, they don't carry cash at all. It's all credit card. You go into some of these bars and clubs downtown, you'll see 30 credit cards behind the bar. Doesn't order another drink. Oh, yeah, okay. And they just take the credit card, put it in. And they say, you ready to settle up? Yeah, and they put it in. Okay, have a nice day.
The problem, when you spend cash, it's more real than when you just use a plastic. You actually realize how much this is, but when you just put it on plastic,
That's why they play
there's an unreality
that's
to
why they
it.
play with chips in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
$100 chip. If it's a $100 bill, I don't know if I want to bet this.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I never thought of that, but yeah, you'd be much more less likely to toss a $100 bill on the counter than a $100
I
chip.
lost a black
right.
chip. Not I lost a $100 bill.
It amazes me when you go to Walgreens now, more and more people are buying $2 or $3 purchases. It's always put on charge.
Yeah, well, some places they have requirements on how much you can do on plastic.
I think some of those are falling by the wayside, though.
Well, it's average is about 3% or more.
Well, it's like
But,
some of these ATMs. They'll charge $5 fee to get $100.
Yeah.
And then your bank will charge you another couple of dollars because they did that. Yeah.
Yeah, there were.
And I think one of the reasons that they want the cards is you can't find too many people behind the counter anymore that know how to add, subtract, or
That's-
Oh, yeah.
multiply.
Yeah, when I was
McDonald's.
when I was doing a checkout, you had to do this all in your head. You had to calculate it, the change.
Giving change,
Now
exactly.
the machine tells you what the change
Yeah,
is.
I went to a store one time. The bill was $10.01. I gave him a $20 bill. He rang it up. I said, "Here, I got a penny," and he had to go to the calculator and figure out how much.
Yeah.
It's $10.01. I gave you $10.01 for the bill.
No sense of math anymore.
And then the other thing, I go to the store and I said, "I'd like to get a 1/4-inch cut of ham off the bone." 1/4 inch? How much is a 1/4 inch? Is this a 1/4 inch?
I'll tell you a story that my dad told me about a scam that someone pulled on my grandmother. My grandmother and grandfather, my dad ran the business, and my grandmother did the checkout. And there was a customer who paid for the bill was something like $3.48. Customer gave my grandmother a bill, and my grandmother gave her change for a $5 bill, and the customer said, "No, I gave you a 10." Well, my grandmother was as honest could be, but so she apologized and she gave her the change for a $10 bill. So my dad, a few days later, he saw the same customer. This was not a regular customer. This was kind of a fly-by-night. Saw the same person coming into the store. My dad went to the cash register and took all the $10 bills out of the cash register and put them in his pocket. So she came up to the counter, did the same thing, bought a $2 or $3 item, paid, and then said, "Oh, I didn't give you a $5 bill. I gave you a 10 again." My dad was standing behind. He said, "Oh," he says, "come over here." So, and he opened the cash register. He said, "You show me a $10 bill in that cash register." And actually, there weren't any. She had given her a $5 bill. So they gave her and said, "I don't ever want to see you in this store again."
Well, the other way some people used to do it was the fact they used to put the bill on their cash
That's
register.
what my dad told my grandmother to start doing, was to put the bill on the cash. When I would do checkout, that was the first thing he told me, is you put the bill on the cash register very prominently so that if there's any question, it's right there.
The quick change scams are legendary. My favorite was the couple works in cahoots. A guy walks up to the register and pays with a $20 bill, and then the woman comes up, gives a $5 bill, and says, "Oh no, I gave you a 20." The guy goes, "No." She says, "I know I gave you a $20 bill." "No, call your manager over here." They call the manager over. "I gave him a 20. No, I didn't." She says, "Well, as a matter of fact, I spilled perfume in my purse this morning. Smell it. That $20 bill is going to smell like this perfume." And he goes,
yeah.
"Son of a gun." Well, it was the guy that
Was-
gave
was- was-
the
yeah,
that gave the
working
bill.
together, yeah.
They're working together. Yeah.
That's cute.
Well, the other one now everybody's got to watch out for is scams on. Somebody calls you on the telephone and says, "I'm from the IRS," and you're.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, those scams are
Yeah, they
legendary.
warn you that the IRS will never contact you by phone.
Yeah, it's always by mail.
No.
And
Or
the
email.
the phony websites, I got one from Bank of America, and the phony websites look more legit than the real websites.
Yeah.
It's just contact us immediately. Your credit card is canceled. And I mean, it looked official. I just ignored it.
I
There
keep
was-
getting the one too where I'm from the federal government, some agency, and your name has been picked. You will get $3,400, and you'll never have to pay it back. I said, "Oh yeah, well, good. Send me that."
There was a country in Europe after the war where there was a ring of counterfeiters that were counterfeiting the currency. It's supposed to be a true story. That the way the government nailed them was that the counterfeiters' printing was better than the government's. All the real presses had been destroyed during the war, and what they were using to print their banknotes was kind of shoddy. And the counterfeiters were producing better quality currency than the government was, and they were able to spot the bills because they looked better than the real thing.
I remember I was in England in about 1960, give or take a couple of years, and they were all script.
Oh, sure.
And the GIs got script; they wouldn't get cash. And every so often they would just say, "No, "You turn in money today for new script." and that the old script was worthless. So they actually say they would dump bushel baskets of script over the wall because of the fact that it was growing out of style. And at that time, you could buy a $10 bill for about $20. You know,
I've still got the script from my dad when the city was paying
Oh,
Oh,
police
really?
and firemen. Yeah.
That's interesting.
well,
they were
these,
doing that in the 30s. That's one of the reasons that Mayor Cermak went to see FDR was because the city was broke and they were paying their employees with scrip. I remember reading
Yeah.
that. And he was there to get money for, particularly the school system was bankrupt. And that's why he was down there when he got shot, a meeting with
Miami,
FDR
right,
in
right.
Florida. He was looking for money for the city already then, in the 1930s.
you remember the Goldbacks? The private banks used to publish their own dollar bills, and they had a special backing to them. So the front was, normal color, and then the back had a different impression on there. You can still find them once in a while in the museums.
That's why they call them banknotes. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a time when banks could issue their own currency.
Yeah.
And
Look
then
at all the
other one-
changes we've seen in paper money in recent years. You wonder how this is going to evolve as we try to keep one step ahead of counterfeiters.
I don't like that plastic strip that they have now on the $100 bill.
Gee, I never see a $100 bill.
I am. It just the currency now. I mean, they've reached a point where they have to have a plastic
It looks
strip.
like old Monopoly money.
Yeah, to me, it demeans the currency. I guess they have no choice because
No,
of
it's
they have to
strange.
keep us ahead of the counterfeiters. But it looks to me it looks disconcerting to see that plastic strip across U.S.
Well,
currency.
there's always a detecting counterfeit money
Yeah.
now, but not of it foolproof.
Yeah.
We were just talking the other day at Hawthorne that the guys behind the counters is still miss the $2 bill.
Well, they
From the
still
$2
exist.
bet.
I don't-
Yeah.
Oh, they exist, but they don't print them anymore.
They don't print
No.
the $2 bill
No.
anymore.
No.
They were handy. I liked them.
Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah. I got a couple at home.
I tried to spend a $2 bill a few weeks ago, and the
People thought
store
it was-
wouldn't take it. I mean,
They
they
thought it was counterfeit.
yeah, or they just didn't know what to do with it, where to put it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
they
said,
say
"We
that
will
was one of
tender,"
the
but,
reasons
no.
that the two never was successful was that there wasn't a slot for it in cash registers. You had ones,
Yeah.
fives, tens, 20s. There was no place to put the $2 bill. They claim that's one of the reasons why they can never make a go of the $2 bill.
Well, I could tell you how they can do it. You should change the $1 bills to coins and make the $2 bills.
People don't want. People want the dollar bill though. They've tried. They've tried. Look how many dollar coins they've produced over the last 30, 40 years.
Well,
They've
the problem
tried
they ran into-
time and time again, but it just
No.
doesn't
The
work.
Susie B was,
Well, that was the most ugly coin ever minted.
well, it was also silver, so you mixed them up with quarters. You
When,
could-
when's the last time you've seen a 50-cent piece?
Yeah.
Very seldom.
The Kennedy
the old
half
Kennedy
dollar.
half dollar. Yeah.
And the 50-cent piece was a convenient coin. I mean, it was
Yeah.
convenient.
It
You
was
didn't have to
heavy.
use as
The
many
only,
quarters.
only way you see now, if you get from the mint, you get one of those.
They still
proof.
mint them. They still create them,
Sure.
but nobody uses them.
You get the proofs. You can you see 'em.
$2 bills.
We were just talking about the $2
no.
bill.
Yeah,
Well, they've
we
disappeared.
miss them at the track.
Yeah.
The old cartwheel silver dollars, the real silver dollars.
Yeah.
When I went with my family to Arizona in 1959, they were still using silver dollars as common currency. It was nothing to go into a store, make a $7 or $8 purchase, and get silver dollars back in change. It was just
Well,
common
my
currency.
first time I went to Vegas in '68, they still had silver dollars in the machines, and then they were dollar coins. They weren't silver,
No.
but they were $1 coins.
The Ike dollars.
Yeah,
the
right.
Big they were cartwheels, but they
Right.
were made out of copper and
Right.
nickel.
But now, if you go to a parking lot and they got these pay as you go out type of thing, you get change in dollar coins.
Oh, the current coins that they.
Yeah. When you put a $10 bill in their bills.
Weren't some vending machines doing that for a while too? Giving a change in
I
coin?
don't know, but there's some that take dollar coins. I've used them.
And they keep talking about doing away with the penny. I wonder if that'll ever
They've
happen in
been
our
talking
lifetime.
about that for
Yeah,
as long
yeah,
as I
yeah,
can
yeah.
remember, and they still mint pennies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I still
That's
got-
another thing. Supposedly not supposedly, there is no such thing as a penny. It's a 1 cent coin.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
I
yeah.
mean, everyone calls it a penny.
It's
but
like a
it's
nickel. There's no
yeah.
such thing as a nickel.
Right,
It's
5 cents,
yeah.
right.
Well, a
Or
quarter.
a dime.
Interesting. Yeah.
Quarter is, you know, it used to be.
$quarter. It says on the coin, $quarter.
Yeah, it used to be pieces of 8. Yeah,
You're really going back.
Yeah.
that was another one that's
Pieces
fun.
of 8. Yeah.
The dime. There was times when the country we had 3-cent pieces.
Yeah.
There were 2-cent pieces. There were 20-cent pieces.
Yeah.
In the
Slow
19th
wire.
century.
In Mexico, they still have coins like that. You go down there and you're there for a week. You wind up with a pocket full of coins that
Odd shapes.
you know. It's a
and-
handful of coins and it's worth about half a cent.
Well, you go to Canada, they eliminate a lot of their paper money with coins.
I don't think they have a paper dollar anymore.
No, they don't.
No, it's all coin.
yeah,
Most
yeah,
countries
yeah.
have done away with a
Inflation helps them.
Yeah,
a
the loon-
bill for their
In
for
Canada,
one
the-
unit.
The loon, the loony.
Yeah.
So there's the loon and
Right.
the coin has a loon, the bird, a loon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they call them loonies. It's a dollar
I like
coin.
that.
In Britain, £1 is a coin. They don't make a £1 note.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. No.
I have a farthing at home, an old English
that goes
farthing, which is 1/4 of a cent. It was 1/4 of an English penny back in the days when they had pounds, shillings, and pence. And they had this little coin called which was, imagine what that would have been worth. 1/4 of a penny was called
Well,
a farthing.
You remember the red cents in the United States?
I've heard the term reds. Well, of course, they're all.
It was made out of plastic or something like that,
Oh,
and it was red. That's why I said it's not worth a red cent. That was
Yeah. What were the silver pennies made out of?
that
great
was
pennies,
steel.
the war pennies,
Steel?
those were
Yeah,
steel.
yeah,
Yeah, those
steel,
were made of
yeah.
steel.
I got a couple at home.
Well, they're using zinc for a while.
Well, that was zinc coated.
And
Uh,
zinc,
steel.
yeah, it was a mixture of steel and zinc because of the shortage of copper. I guess they wanted to conserve on copper because all the copper they needed for brass for
In the
shell
war.
casings.
Well, they still do the same reason now. That everything's zinc with a copper coating on it.
Yeah.
So it's,
And
it's,
the other coins we have are copper and nickel. They call it cupro nickel, the
Yeah.
quarters and dimes.
but
But imagine, I mean, in our lifetime, we used to be coins were all made of silver. I mean, I remember as a kid when the $50, the quarter, they were silver. They were worth. There was 10 cents worth of silver
yeah,
in a dime.
And the bills would have silver certificate on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
gold certificates.
Give me the good
years
old
past.
days.
yeah. Well,
People expected hard currency.
at one time the dollar bill was quite a bit larger too. You know, they
When you go
shrunk the
back,
size
yeah,
of the
yeah,
bill.
yeah.
Well, with the electronic and computer era, when you just stop and think, and this never happened years ago. Well, it was impossible to happen, but now with all the wire transfers and money, there's billions of dollars just spinning around in the air,
Okay.
going from Europe to South America to Canada to China, and it's all just
Well, your
wire
paycheck
transfer.
goes
yeah,
electronic.
right.
So you know,
Yeah, one little slip of that decimal point can really make a difference.
Oh, what's funny about that decimal point? There's only one place that still uses the decimal point on there.
Ooh.
I should say tenths of a cent.
Okay.
Huh.
A mil.
Hey, that's a gasoline.
Oh, that.
Mills,
Yeah,
mills.
yeah.
I had an argument with one guy. He said it's just 41.9 cents. I said it's 42 cents a gallon. He said no, it's 41 cents a gallon. You sit there, it's 41.9, which rounds off to 42.
Will we ever see the end of that in service stations? No
I
matter
don't
how
know.
I
pricey
have
gasoline
at
becomes.
home a plastic coin. I think from Missouri. It's from another state, and it is for 1 mil.
Yeah.
And it says on the other side Missouri Tax Authority or something like that. But they actually broke it down into tenths of a cent, a mil. You know, but I guess there was a time when that was actually worth something. A mil meant something.
Wartime here in the States, they used to have halves. Something was 42 and a half cents.
Half cent.
You know, that was a half cent, yeah.
But you can remember, of course, when a nickel was, you could buy a candy bar for a nickel. I
You
can't
remember the old cliche about Chuckles candy? Chuckles, 5 flavors, 5 pieces of 5 cents.
5 cents, yeah.
Now it's $1.
I get a kick
A
out of
nickel
these,
candy bar.
these guys when they write up their ads and that. for a piece of for whatever it is, and the $9.99.
Yeah.
And my
Marked down from $10.
That's the old
Well,
sale gimmick.
and,
you know.
Under
and
$10.
That's a sales.
But it works.
sure.
They wouldn't do
Because
it if
it
it didn't work.
It
It
works.
does.
That's right.
They wouldn't do it.
Psychologically,
They're
it
looking
works.
for
It does
the
work,
for the
yeah.
moron that figures, hey, it's not $10.
Well, they've done
It's under
studies where they
$10.
say, three for $1, five for $5, or
Yeah.
and if people think they're getting a bargain if they
Yeah.
they get the $5 one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've kind of covered many topics today. We've talked about baseball and ghosts in Chicago and the national anthem and Halloween and the harvest. So we hope you've enjoyed our program. This is our October edition of Meet the Chicago Historians here from the John DeVita Broadcast Center. I want to thank you for listening on behalf of my fellow panelists and on behalf of our host, Jack Ryan. We hope he'll be back next month. And as Jack always says, remember, history is not just a book you keep on the shelf. Rich?
We wish to thank Kevin of Jack FM, WRHS 89.7 FM, for broadcasting our shows over the Ridgewood Radio Network. Recordings of previous Meet the Chicago Historians programs are available for your listening pleasure via the internet at www.windycityhometown.com. We especially thank the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, John Seconda. On behalf of everyone associated with our Historians programs, we thank you for listening, and have a happy Halloween. This is your announcer, Rich Lang. So long until next time.
Remember our veterans on Armistice Day, November the 11th.
Good
Happy
point.
Halloween.
You've been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, October the 23rd, year 2017. This broadcast was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Secondo. Today's broadcast was pre-recorded on Monday, October the 23rd, the year 2017. Until next time, please be safe and thanks for listening.